好的，回来了。那么我们准备开始。我们先把 B 站这边这个窗口关一下。接下来的直播部分是属于小鹅通专属。大家如果对后面的刺激话题感兴趣的话，欢迎去小鹅通那边听啊。好的，好的，来了。那么大家好，来，我先在下半场直播开始前，我们首先介绍一下我们下半场聊些什么话题啊？就下半场都是些比较刺激的话题。第一个话题是抵抗之狐对于中国和俄罗斯的态度。第二个话题呢是玛莎阿米尼和之后的头巾暴动，第三个则是嘉宾本人在中国生活的经历。那么同时在形式上，第二部分和第一部分不太一样。第一部分呢，嘉宾说的比较多，但是这个第二部分，因为本身这三个话题都是属于我个人也非常感兴趣的话题，所以第二部分呢会更多以一种我和嘉宾进行对话的形式来进行呈现。那么大家在第二部分会听到我会说更多我所关注的、我所关心的一些话题。然后呢，大家如果感兴趣的话，也欢迎在 SE 里面可以那个打 SE 给嘉宾提问，没有问题。Okay, so let's start on part 2 now. Okay, so we have now actually moved to a private stream, so you can actually just loosen up a little bit. A lot of things you don't need to be so careful about speaking something wrong. Yeah. Okay,
Sure.
so this is a lot of questions are the ones that I am personally very interested in. So what happens is this: after I spoke my part, I will pause to translate my part first. Then you can also use that time to consider response. And after I finished my translation, you can start your part. Okay, so the first question that I think is very interesting yet seldom discussed, even on my channel, is the attitude of the axis of resistance on China and Russia. If we only look at open statements, speeches by both Said Nasrallah and Al-Houthi, we can see that they are very positive and they generally have expressed a lot of affection for both China and Russia on almost all open speeches. And yet, we can also see, if we look into some of the more private messages, including the Telegram channels, like a lot of the chatting, private chatting, they often also experience a sort of frustration and sometimes outright anger at least what seems to be inaction from China and Russia, as well as a kind of a lack of support. So this is a very interesting aspect to seeing how they respond, how they think about China and Russia, as well as not just right now, but also in the future. Let's say assume that America is completely ejected from West Asia. What happens then? What role will China and Russia play in the future? It's very interesting question. 好的，那么第一个问题呢，就是如果我们看抵抗之狐对中俄的态度，我们如果看公开的演讲，特别是包括纳斯鲁拉和胡塞的公开演讲的话，里面是基本上对中俄只有好话。不管是对于中俄的内部情况，还是对中俄在世界舞台上扮演的反对美帝国主义的这个斗争来说，都是只有好话，非常正面和积极的评价。但是如果我们看一些私下的，包括各种和抵抗之狐有关联的 TG 频道、电报频道等等，你会发现，实际上在私下当中，他们是经常，特别是他们支持者，是经常表达了对于中俄在很多问题上缺乏行动是存在一定的不满的，存在了一定的不满、不乐意，在某些方面也存在一定的怀疑。那么如何和解这两种态度，这两种公开和私下态度？他们对于中俄到底什么观点？不仅仅是现在有着共同敌人要对抗美国，还有在未来假定当美国意识到自己在中东没法再待下去，全面从中东撤离之后，当美国势力离开中东，那么在那个时候，抵抗之狐对于中俄未来的认知态度又是怎么样？那么这是一个很有趣的，但是在直播间里面其实也很少获得讨论的这样一个话题。Yeah, okay, you can start.
Okay. So this is actually a very good question. I was one of the people who were very criticized about the response from China and Russia at first days of the October 7th. I have to say a couple of things here. One is that the resistance axis is a very dependent kind of front line. So normally what mainstream media is trying to frame about the resistance axis is that they are depending on Iran, or Iran is ordering them to do this or that in terms of the war between them and Israel or even Americans. But that's not the truth. Each of these groups are actually doing what they think they have to do, but at the same time they do talk to each other. There is a committee. They do make decisions together as well. And I have to say, this is the same thing about the entire resistance axis towards the other allies in the world, which is mainly Russia and China. At the beginning, the frustration was very, very remarkable among the supporters of resistance in Iran. Everyone was saying that this is not enough. Even though, for example, the speech that Xi Jinping had a couple of days after in BRICS, he didn't mention that Hamas is a terrorist group or the October 7 was a terrorist attack. Actually, he did again talked about the peace between Palestine and the importance of the recognition of the country, which was very, very amplified among supporters of resistance in Iran and even in the Arab groups, like in Lebanese people. That okay, this is something that we have to acknowledge. It's a good step. Or, for example, when Vladimir Putin compared what is happening in Gaza with Leningrad, so that was also very important. So when we talk about the expectation of the resistance axis, I have to actually say that since the October 7 until today, it was a educational course for all of us. People normally were joking about the strategic patience that the Iranian government has towards Israelis. Especially it was accelerated when the commander in Syria was assassinated, and
You mean
everyone
the
was
one
saying
in
that
Lebanon? You mean the Iranian commanders in Syria?
the Iranian commander,
Okay,
yeah,
I see.
everyone
Yeah,
was saying that enough is enough. Like
yeah.
you cannot just continue by this kind of strategic patience that we don't know when it's going to be ended. Like you need to surprise the enemy, and by your silence, you're just inviting them to attack Iran more and more. That was the same, I think, logic that people were using against, not against, but like criticizing China and Russia not doing enough, especially when they didn't veto the resolution in the Security Council about attacking the attack by Americans towards Yemen. But today things are a bit different. Now that they see that actually Iran does respond. It's a difference between reacting to what Israeli is doing and responding. So beforehand, we couldn't distinguish between these two. We were so emotional, like each of us, like even though we have some analysis and we can understand things, but when you see people are being murdered, it's actually very hard not to be emotional and not to demand the government to actually do more. And people were even like very I should say well-known experts and analysts in the politics of West Asia and Iran. They were saying that it's because there is a division between the forces in Iran. Khamenei is actually not doing anything because he's scared if he takes action, there is going to be irreversible consequences for the government in Iran. Like internally, they were analyzing it that the government is scared that something unexpected is going to happen. But that wasn't the case. All these analyses and all these fears and stress that everyone had, I have to say, by the time with watching what is happening, is actually now is that no, this is not the reality. What is Iranian government is doing is that trying to find the best time and the best excuse whether to proactively do an operation or respond to what already has happened. And I have to say, the same case is for China and Russia, for us to understand why they're not so willingly involved in the war. People are saying, okay, we have to understand that Israel is not the enemy of China and Russia, but America is, United States is. And who is the biggest funder of Israel? Like, it's a very simple logic that we could have at the very day one from the war, but we have it now that at the end of the day, the main funder of the Israel, which is Americans, are the enemies of Russia and China. And yes, maybe a strategic patience has been overused by the Iranian government, but it does make sense, not only for Iranian government and how they are even the inaction was also used for Iranian government and for the China and Russian government. So now people see it in a different way, in a smarter way, that it's not inaction, it's just like a different way when we are not equal. Like at the end of the day, in terms of what we have as resistance axis and what Americans and Israeli have is it's not equal, it's not even. So we need to be smart, and we need to actually maybe sacrifice more to achieve more, I have to say.
Okay, I see. I'll translate this part first. 好的，那么关于抵抗之狐，就特别是或者说你如果亲西方的话，一般把它称为是各种伊朗的代理人武装或者伊朗的傀儡，外部经常犯的一个错误是在刻画当中强调这些组织对于伊朗是极度依赖的，他们做什么都必须要通过伊朗的许可，都必须要接到伊朗的指示。但实际情况并非如此，这一点其实也是我经常讲的，就是抵抗之狐在核心来说是一个各个独立自主的区域内的派系基于自身利益所组成一个联合。当然，伊朗在这个联盟当中很明显拥有最大的话语权，而所有成员也都同意这一点。但这和美国及其盟友，很多时候写作盟友独做狗腿子的关系是不一样的。哪怕是当伊朗需要这些同盟、需要抵抗之狐成员做事的时候，它很多时候并不是一种免费而无代价的可以随时要求颐指气使，而是在很多时候就算是在进行一些有共同利益相关，比如说典型的在伊拉克打击美军的时候，实际上很多时候伊朗可能也要通过提供武器援助或者经济援助等等各方面的利益诱惑，来使得这些派系，特别在伊拉克，愿意和伊朗进行合作、进行做事、进行这种共同打击和战略协调。这一点是非常重要的。也就是说，抵抗之狐各成员它是有自主的、独立的战略计算、战略考量。这一点不仅仅对伊朗适用，对于中俄来说也是适用的，就是我们必须要考虑到抵抗之狐的具体成员对于中俄也会有自身的计算、自身的考量。那么在这种情况之下，你得考虑到它不是一个上面某个人说我们对中俄要统一采取什么策略，下面每一个人就一定能听，而是不光在各个势力之间，在同一个势力的不同层级之间也可能会有些不同的看法。那么这里嘉宾分享了他本人和其他很多在伊朗的亲抵抗之狐派系的一个心路历程，那就是在最开始特别刚开战的时候，大家都非常急，伊朗怎么还不干预？中俄怎么还不干预？怎么不赶快支持巴勒斯坦力量？不赶快支持哈马斯？等等，都认为需要进行更快、更迅速的反应。像这样坐在原地消极被动，特别在伊朗，那么这意味着以色列未来会对伊朗，以色列和美国会在未来对伊朗进行更多的挑衅，乃至直接打击，所以应该立刻先下手为强。但是随着时间的推移，看得越来越多，慢慢的开始回过神来了。特别是看到伊朗在以色列对伊朗本国发动恐怖袭击之后，还有包括之前在叙利亚刺杀伊朗指挥官之后，伊朗开始进行一系列的应对反应式的打击，然后包括其他的一系列对真主党和对哈马斯的支持，让他们也慢慢意识到了， 或许现在这样做是对的，或许在这个关头，在很多情况还不明朗的情况下，一头冲进去，然后把手牌全都第一轮立刻打出来，这可能并不是一个明智合理的选择。而这个时候，保留更多选项，保留更多的灵活性，保留未来潜在反应机会，不管是等待一个良好的能够给以色列致命一击的机会，还是自己手头给自己留有更多的灵活选项的机会，实际上才是一个更合理的做法。这一点不仅仅适用于伊朗，同时也适用于中俄，因为慢慢的他们自己也能够意识到，这里在我看来也是一个能够反映出抵抗之湖的成熟性的一点，就是他们能够意识到，到最后中俄和伊朗的共同对手是美国，而不是以色列。以色列是伊朗的对手，但是并不是中俄的对手。进行一个类比，就是你比如说在克什米尔问题上这个应该是刚才他和我聊的时候说的，在克什米尔问题上伊朗是绝对支持克什米尔的，因为克什米尔是主要以穆斯林为主。但是如果印度和巴基斯坦在克什米尔开战，这同样不意味着说伊朗会直接对印度发动战争，因为到最后印度并不是伊朗的对手。所以这种具体的较为复杂但是又不得不了解的外交关系，在今天和未来的国际斗争、国际政治当中都是非常重要的。就是看着看着自己从嘲笑战略定力、理解战略定力，成为战略定力，就是这个样子。Okay, so I actually would like to talk a little bit about my opinion on this in terms of the Iranian response as well as strategic patience, why this is actually necessary. Now, I had a lot of trouble when I'm explaining to people who are not really familiar with the strategic situation. What we are seeing today is actually the result of so many years of experience. I would say the experience on war in the entire past century. If we look at this war on Israel, now let's go back to when Arab countries were at war with Israel, when Egypt, Syria, and Jordan were at war. So what we see, there are several problems. Is that one, when you expand the war so much, when you build an alliance and get every country in the region to go to war with Israel, there are several problems. One is that it will elicit a lot of international response. Now, internationally speaking, from a UN perspective and the Western perspective, a lot of countries see the war between 1948 to 1973, including a lot of people in China, I would add. A lot of people see this war as a small and weak Israel fighting against a powerful and overwhelming Arab alliance that is hell-bent on destruction of Israel and is completely evil, bent on genocide, which is obviously wrong. But we have to admit that in international politics, there's very often an unconditional sympathy for the weak. Now, after October 7th, despite the fact that a lot of Western countries are definitely openly supporting Israel, yet many people in this country, even in the West, support Palestine because they see Palestine as the one, see Gaza as the one that is getting invaded and getting attacked. So there's a lot of international sympathy. And if, let's say, Iran or Hezbollah gets involved more directly and more forcefully, we can't really guarantee that perception won't change, and that would cost precious international support for the Palestinian cause. Now, that is one thing, which is the mistake committed by the Arab countries on a political scale. Now, from a military perspective, what we are seeing is once you get such a big alliance and you try to finish the job in a very short period, like back in 1948, the Arab countries are saying that they can destroy Israel within a month. Yet that was not the case. The nature of modern warfare, when there's so much population as well as so many advanced destructive weapons, means that you really can't try to force a war. When you are trying to fight a war too quickly, you end up making mistakes. And that was exactly what happened back in 1948 as well as in 1967, the Six-Day War, where the Arab countries suffered the greatest defeat, is that they underestimated the difficulty of this task. They underestimated the power of the Zionist army, and they suffered the consequences because they were in such a rush that they overextended and they ended up failing, which become a setback, the greatest setback for the Palestinian cause. So from a military perspective, actually taking things slow do make sense. And I would say lastly is from, if we see all this from an Israeli perspective, we look at history. What Israel good at is low duration, high intensity warfare, the kind of war that ended in a week, where the enemies are deploying large units on the field, tank divisions, and to fight them, so they can use their air superiority to destroy this sort of large-scale conventional forces. What they are bad at is exactly what's happening in Gaza right now, fighting against elusive small forces that can hide themselves in cities or in mountains, in all kinds of complex terrains, and fighting in an attritional warfare, in a guerrilla warfare, a hybrid warfare style. And once the war drags on, which is exactly what we are seeing now, Israel can't maintain, they can't keep up, because they rely so much on their ability to mobilize reserves who are civilians in peacetime and who needs to be mobilized for war. And that hurts the Israeli economy, which means for Israel, the longer the war lasts, the weaker they become, which is actually, I would argue, the opposite for resistance, because most of the resistance organizations right now, Hamas, Hezbollah, etc., including Iran, if we look at the IRGC, their armies are professional standing army, which means they can fight for a very long period. So it becomes a thing where Israel's most powerful at the start of a war, where all their equipments are ready, where their people has just been mobilized and are and have very high morale. Yet as war goes on, their equipment wears down and their people become demoralized. That is actually the period where it becomes more advantageous for the resistance. So it's in the interest of the resistance to drag on the war from a military perspective. So that's my point of view. Now, I will translate this part first. 关于为什么就是说，在这一点，在整个军事问题上，我的观点实际上是，就是这种战略定力对于伊朗和整个抵抗之湖是非常合理的，而且也符合他们对整个对以色列开战的战争构想。对于很多人来说，可能急一急啊，为什么不立刻雷霆万钧之势，集体动员打上去，等等等等。但是这里我们要考虑几个问题。第一个问题是政治层面问题，就是我要吸取当初阿拉伯国家对以色列失败战争教训，这一点我说是抵抗之湖做得很好的。阿拉伯国家失败当初有几个原因，第一个原因是当他们拉起一个大联盟之后，在外部观感来看，是一个普遍的认为阿拉伯国家以大欺小，阿拉伯国家没有政治和道德合法性。当然，对于了解的人，对于从头到尾关注过巴勒斯坦问题的人来说，都知道啊，这个事情不是那么一回事。但是对于外部，不管你说是西方国家还是中国，因为一般观众不会看那么远，都会觉得啊，你只要以大欺小，你就是不对的一方。所以这也是当初对以色列存在大量同情的一个重要原因，认为以色列是以小击大，英勇对抗外部入侵。那么如果现在整体来说，虽然很多西方国家还在公开支持明确政府是支持以色列的，但是在许多包括西方国家，民众是非常支持巴勒斯坦人民的正义斗争。而如果在这个时候，伊朗、真主党等等外部势力进行过于明显的干预和大规模下场，我们并不能保证这种国际支持，这个对巴勒斯坦人民来说非常重要的一个国际资源，我们并不能保证这种支持还能继续维持 和延续下去，这是一个政治问题。接着第二个问题是一个军事问题，那就是如果我们看阿拉伯国家当初拉大联盟的一个很大的问题在于什么？当你要协调这么多国家，你要拉大联盟的时候，你要面对几个问题，一个是协调不同部队的作战问题，然后就是操作不过来，你玩游戏的话就是操作不过来，然后第二个问题就是他们低估了战争的难度和需要的持续时间，都觉得短时间就能够打赢，这导致他们犯了一个什么错误？在1948年最典型的错误，还有包括1967年有这个错误，就是什么呢？他们过于急于求战，大量突进，在突进的过程当中，部队的进攻势头逐渐减弱，然后接着让以色列有足够的时间，首先是依托地形和一个个周边定居点进行节节阻击，来以此逐渐的消耗阿拉伯国家的进攻动力，然后接着他们能够有效的组织反击，反而能够摧毁进攻的阿拉伯军队，取得胜利。那么这样一个急于求胜这一点，是当初阿拉伯国家多次战败的一个重要原因。那么今天我们看到，实际上从军事角度上来说，实际上对于抵抗之狐来说，吸收这个教训，进行一场长期战争，在军事上是更加合理的，也更加符合抵抗之狐过去的作战风格。接着第三点，那就是以色列本身的自身的军事和国家社会组织特点，那就是以色列是一个高度依赖预备役和动员的国家，那么它最擅长的是短时间高强度1周2周之内的战争，快速面对一支在战场上成组织成建制，以什么师级别旅级别大规模部署的阿拉伯军队，那么这样的军队面对以色列占据巨大优势的空中力量，是属于会在短时间之内被迅速摧毁，那么这也是以色列想要的模式，快速动员压倒性的地面兵力，加上空优摧毁对方成建制部队。而我们今天看到，当他面对这样一种在加沙或者包括在黎巴嫩这样一种分散的由小单位进行的游击战的时候，他实际上非常难受，因为他这种大量依赖动员兵的模式意味着很多时候他部队的单兵作战素质，特别小单位作战素质其实并不太行，导致他没有办法在这种边境的，特别在北部边境小摩擦当中，他没法取得上风。而同时他所依赖的大规模动员兵，随着时间的推进，会因为你经济困难各种问题，你没法长期维持动员，而且士气也会开始下降。而另外一方面，抵抗之狐则基本上战斗人员大部分使用的是职业兵，在这种情况下呢，随着战争的拖延，战争的延长，职业兵能够相比动员兵更好的保证战斗能力。那么所以就说，从这个角度来说，对于抵抗之狐来说，也是时间拖得越久越有利，而以色列则是推得越久越弱。特别是随着战争初期三板斧用完，空军大规模轰炸消耗大量弹药，地面机械化单位大量推进，对装备造成大量消耗之后，实际上以色列随着这整个进程是越来越弱的。Okay, yeah, I'm finished.
I agree with what you said, and I think I just want to add two more points to this. This is a war that we all agree that is an asymmetric war, which means you need to consider all the elements included in the war and make the decisions accordingly. The same asymmetric war happened between Iran and Iraq, Yemeni war with Saudi Arabia, and the 2006 war between Hezbollah and Israel. And I think there are two principles here that they respectfully try to make it real when they are being under attack. One is the principle of surprise, and I think it's very important. Especially they practice it in the war between Iran and Iraq, and also the level that they are trying over the time by exponential threats against the enemy. So these two, they are actually the principle that they are using and utilizing in the war against Israel. And that means, as you said, the time is in favor of the resistance axis because by the time, not only in terms of the military, but also the political and social divisions in Israel right now. Like if we just compare today Israel in compared to like 3 months ago, you can see how weak the government is, and it's not only because of the war, it's also because the consequences that people in Israel are seeing by their own eyes, that if the war continues, it's not in their favor. They have to finish it. And this is where exactly the resistance is using and they having the opportunity to actually prove it to the people that you can't actually expect the war to continue, because that's going to be against you. And also you're going to be surprised, not only by Iranian government, but also with Yemenis in Red Sea and Hezbollah, and even the Iraqi resistance. Like what is happening right now is just increasing the level of intensity and also the pressure they put on American forces in Syria and Iraq, which has direct impact on the forces in Gaza.
Yes, I agree. 好的，那么这里在刚才我提到3点之外，就是嘉宾提出另外2点，这2点其实也是非常重要的，就是今天加沙的战争是场非对称战争，意味着双方并不是在使用相同的类似的部队，不是冷战那种飞机对飞机、坦克对坦克的战争。我们在看到是哈马斯整体上来说是依靠一支完全主要以步兵还有少数的火箭弹、无人机组合而成的部队来面对以色列这支有大量先进武器和作战装备的这样一支军队，变成了这种战争。那么这种战争，如果我们看过去的类似的案例，特别是抵抗之狐过去的经验，包括2伊战争、伊拉克战争、06年黎巴嫩战争等等等等。而在这一系列战争当中，我们看到抵抗之狐有2个常见的共通的战法。那么第一个是不管何时尽可能取得突袭优势，这一点非常重要。我的观点一直是在很多军事讨论当中，对于如何取得突袭优势这一点缺乏足够的关注。特别是如果我们看2战德军，很多人粉德军，但是我会说很多人没有看到2战德军从战略到战役到战术层面非常强调突然袭击的重要性，在对方未曾预料的方向，以对方未曾预料的形式发动攻击，能够取得巨大的战果。这一点我们看10月7号哈马斯所发动的第一波突击就可以看出来。包括如果我们看22年2月24日，俄军通过取得战略和战役突然性，在头1个月占领了乌克兰大约全境20%的领土。那么这些都显示出，包括乌克兰人后来自己的取得最大战果的哈尔科夫突击，都显示出了在现代战场上想要取得优势，如何能够塑造突然性是非常重要的。那么为了塑造突然性，你就必须要保证你不要一次把所有牌都给打出来，你手头留有足够多的选项，然后逐渐的针对整个战况的发展和变化，适当的进行应对，无时不刻的给敌方造成突然袭击。而这种突然性所带来的不仅仅是它的战术效果本身打死多少人，而是你让对方时刻处于一种焦虑、担心自己遭到袭击，让对方没有那么自信，让对方的行动变得受到恐惧影响，变得迟缓，这点非常重要。而第2个特征则是对敌方制造尽可能多的威胁方向，使用尽可能多的不同种类的武器，从步兵到你比如说反坦克导弹，到无人机，到反舰导弹，制造更多不同的威胁，让对方为了应对这一个个不同的手段、不同的威胁，手忙脚乱，这样一来给你留出破绽。这一点也非常明显，就是我们看抵抗之狐整体来说都特别喜欢玩各种花活、各种不同的攻击手段。那么多种攻击手段在一起，让对方手忙脚乱。比如说一发反舰导弹打船的话，一发反舰导弹，然后加上可能一个无人自爆艇， 再加上一发可能说是自杀无人机，再加上一个反舰弹道导弹，结合这多种武器的效果，可能要高于说你单纯的打10发反舰导弹。因为当你使用这些技术性质不同的武器，对方拦截所面对的压力是要大幅度上升的，而不仅仅是使用传统的纯粹拼数量的饱和打击来进行攻击。那么在现在通过一定程度上限制他们的反应，但是依旧对以色列施加压力和威胁。我们可以看到，包括伊朗和真主党都能够有效的让以色列面对大量的压力，同时随着时间的推移，以色列国内的政治分裂，他们国内的矛盾也在不断的强化。那么在这样的一个背景下，我们能看到，实际上整体来说，对于哈马斯来说，这种外界所间接的对以色列施加的压力，确实是在卓有成效的发挥作用，使得哈马斯现在可以说，你可以说打了几个月，打了3-4个月，相比过去可以说是打得越来越顺了。Yeah, okay, so this part is finished. Now, there's also a very interesting aspect that I would like to talk about from an Iranian perspective. Like, what exactly is Iranian domestic perspective and perception about Iran's both in terms of missile as well as drone strengths? Like, what's the expectation in a potential war between Iran with Israel and the US?
Well, I have to say everyone is very confident about the military power of Iran in terms of missiles. And since the war between Ukraine and Russia, there are so many news about the support that Iran has for Russia. And this is something that has given a lot of confidence to supporters of resistance in Iran, and no one has any doubt that Israel or Americans dare to actually attack Iran within the borders. And it didn't happen. Like a couple of nights ago, Americans, as they said, 85 points in Syria and Iraq, they attacked and they hit. But they themselves said that we're not going to hit anything in the border of Iran, which I think is directly linked to the military power of Iran. The missiles, I should say, this is where the Iranian government was very straightforward and strict in the JCPOA and nuclear deal when the plan was that starting from nuclear power of Iran and then going to the next stage, which is the missiles, and it was stopped. And the Supreme Leader Khamenei was very articulate about this plan by the Western. They were like, this is not the ultimate goal for them. They know that we don't have the nuclear bombs, and we're not planning to do so. But what they are very sure about it is that we are very straightforward about our missile and our military power, and we're not going to be pushed back by them. And today, I think everyone, even the opposition, it's not just about the resistance supporters in Iran. Everyone is fully, I think, positive about the defensive power that Iran has if any possible thing happens to the borders of Iran.
Okay, I see. I'll translate this part first. 好了，那么这一段呢是想讨论一下，就是从伊朗本国的角度来说，他们对于伊朗的导弹和无人机这2个方面的实力是怎么看待的？他们本国整体的认知是，总体来说，伊朗国内包括反对派在内，对于伊朗的导弹和无人机的威慑力和战斗能力是有极高信心的。包括在前几天，当美国人威胁要进行打击的时候，绝大多数人都认为美国并不会攻击伊朗，而事实结果也确实如此。 美国打击了叙利亚和伊拉克，但是并没有对伊朗本国进行打击。而且特别是在俄乌开战以来，在伊朗的电视节目当中，经常谈到伊朗对俄罗斯的支持，伊朗对俄罗斯出口的无人机，包括导弹。那么导弹主要是像短号啊等等这些这种陆基的小型反坦克导弹。那么这些就是伊朗能够给像俄罗斯这样的世界顶级军事强国出口武器，并且获得认可，在很大程度上也进一步强化了伊朗国内对这方面的认同。总体来说，在发展导弹和无人机，而且这个项目对伊朗至关重要这一点上，伊朗国内是有共识的。包括当年在伊核谈判的时候，当时西方国家试图要求让和谈事项不仅限于伊朗核项目，并且想要把这个扩散到要求伊朗降低无人机和导弹的精度和射程的时候，哈梅内伊专门明确谈过，这个就是一个明确的阴谋。他们试图以这个伊核谈判作为一个契机，重要的是对伊朗的导弹和无人机项目进行限制。他们表面上说是要限制伊朗发展核力量投放载具，但实际上他们知道伊朗并没有核武器，他们只想以此借口来限制伊朗最强的威慑能力，也就是无人机和导弹方面。那么这样一来，限制伊朗的战略能力，同时假设未来他们要准备打击伊朗的时候，则不会遭到反击。Okay, so next I will read a super chat from audience. 感谢拉菲亚的 SE， 谢谢。So one question the audience wants to ask is that based on we are seeing closer political as well as economic ties among China, Russia, and Iran. Now, he observed that there's much more in terms of civilian cooperation and communication between China and Russia. So a lot of, let's say, scholars, etc. But whether in China or in Moscow, he didn't really see many Iranian students. On the other hand, he does see a lot of students from Iraq, Lebanon, and Syria. Now, he would like to ask whether this is just because his observation is a little bit biased and didn't see so many Iranian students in China and Russia, or there are some deeper reasons. There are deeper reasons behind it. And among Iranian youth, how do they view the relationship, the triangular relations between China and Russia and Iran?
Very good question. Thank you. Well, again, this is my also observation. I don't have very reliable data to refer to, but what I see is actually similar to what the audience is talking about. In terms of sending students in to China and Russia, I should say my experience is also very unique for the generation. Whenever I say I decided to leave Australia and go to China to study, everyone is like, why? Like for education, people go to the West, not to the East. So I have to say the Look East policy that President Raisi has been having since he came to the power is a very, very new thing, because if we go back to the history of the revolution, the very popular slogan of the revolution was that no West, no East, the independent republic. And it wasn't a big trust between the Iranian government with other Eastern nations, especially China and Russia, because they were seeing them as communist and they didn't have very good experience with Soviet Union in Iran. So if I want to divide the youth to two groups, two categories, one is the supporters of the government and another is the more pro-Western kind of population. The second is actually, the answer is very simple. Like, obviously they will choose to go to America. America is the first destination for the highest ranking universities in Iran, which is Sharif University for engineers and Tehran University for other kind of majors. like I think the majority decide to go to America and then Canada and Europe and other Western countries. But in terms of the supporters of the government who actually have more trust in the East, I have to say it's kind of maybe the independent attitude that they have, that they must stay in Iran and they must educate in Iran, because it's a the immigration from Iran is a massive political thing right now, and it has been for at least 2 decades, I should say, that people finish their bachelor, and the first thing they will think about is leaving Iran. So right now, staying in Iran is kind of considered as a revolutionary decision to make, and I can say, even though the supporters of the government and the resistance like to have more experience in Eastern countries, especially Russia and China, but maybe they decide to stay here to show their kind of commitment to their own country.
Yes, I agree. Very nuanced analysis. That is also my experience on this matter. 好的，那么拉菲亚来谈一谈嘉宾对这个问题，就是关于中俄伊3国青年交流以及为什么在国内和莫斯科都很少见到伊朗学生。在这点上，嘉宾虽然没有任何数据，但他同意你的观点，那就是总体来说，伊朗学生外出留学，特别是去中国和俄罗斯留学的情况是非常非常非常少的。为什么呢？这里有一个问题，就是我们如果姑且把伊朗青年分成2个部分，就是分成亲政府派和反政府的更加自由的一派。首先有几点，一点是对于今天伊朗政府来说，莱西总统在上台之后所谈到的向东看这个政策，更加重视对中国和对俄罗斯的关系。实际上从政治历史上来说，对伊朗是一个非常具有开拓性的时期，因为1979年之后，伊朗官方对于外交政策态度基本上一直是贯彻，就是至少官方层面态度保持的是霍梅尼所提出的既不是东方也不是西方，而是伊斯兰，就是更加强调一个独立自主，以自身为核心，作为一极这样一个态度，而不是具体的亲东方或者亲西方。当然，民间和实际操作上是另外一个层面，但是理论上是一直维持这个趋势。直到莱西明确的公开提出向东看以后，对中俄亲善友好这个才变成一个非常明确的官方政策。所以在过去，由于伊朗官方本身在这个问题上的模糊性和缺乏支持，使得伊朗对华和对俄的态度发展，这也是明显在这个过程当中你很难进行顺利的发展。当然还有制裁的问题。然后接着下一个问题是，如果我们看具体的人来说的话，你得面对一个问题，就是什么呢？伊朗国内这2派，亲政府派和亲西方派，对于亲西方派来说，他们从大学特别顶级的像德黑兰大学这种顶尖大学毕业以后，他们第一想要去的方向很多是那个本科毕业以后就直接想要移民海外，第一选项基本上都是美国，特别对于自由派来说，这点没有什么好说的，这点我们国内也熟，是吧？经典移民鄙视链第一高的鄙视链顶端肯定是移民美国。移民美国具体对自己是不是最好不重要，但是反正能够移民美国就说明也特别牛逼这种想法是很常见的。同样在伊朗也是这样，那么第一选项肯定是美国，然后是欧洲西方国家这些方向。那么基本上对于他们来说，出于意识形态原因和这个移民鄙视链的原因，是不会考虑来中国和俄罗斯的。包括嘉宾本人在做出决定说来中国上学的时候，身边人都是一种非常的不解的态度，就是你如果要出国留学或者是考虑未来生活的话，你为什么要决定去中国呢？你就要面对这个问题，就是对于伊朗多数人来说，对于这个并不熟。而对于亲政府派来说，就有个什么问题呢？就是移民问题本身在伊朗是个高度政治化的问题，就是你移民在很大情况下在外界看来，你这就是做了一个明确的一个算是一个政治选项，就是我就是不想待在国内，我就是跟政府不对付，就是这个问题在伊朗这个移民问题和出国问题的政治化远比国内要严重的多，所导致问题是什么呢？亲政府的年轻人 肯定在政治立场上他们是更加倾向于对华对俄进行合作的，但是他们就会有担心说，就是我这个出去是不是会被当作是不忠诚啊？我这个会不会就不够革命？所以对他们来说，更加革命的一个选择，更加能够彰显自身忠诚的一个选择，往往是大学毕业之后留在国内，不管是找工作，然后深造。然后这样就会看到一个问题，就是你在海外所看到的伊朗人，你不仅在中俄很少看到伊朗留学生，你在西方看到的伊朗留学生也基本上全部是亲欧美的。就这一点我也经常谈，就是你看到的留学生亲欧美，不代表伊朗所有人都亲欧美，一个很大的可能是亲政府的那一派根本就不出来留学，这种情况非常常见啊。所以就是这样一个问题，希望能够回答这位观众的 SC。
I also like to add one more point to that question, if it's okay.
Yeah, sure.
It's also about the self-sustainability and efficiency that the supporters of resistance in Iran have strongly believe in. And when it comes to, especially as we were talking about military power, ballistic missiles or hypersonic and all this technology that Iran has been successful to achieve, it's all coming from obviously they have been cooperating with other countries, especially North Korea, China, and Russia, but they also have this kind of attitude that we want to build it in Iran, and we want to have the knowledge and the science being built by ourselves, by our own hand. And I think it's also coming from the, I don't know, like the figures of the military power, like Tehrani Moqaddam, who is the figure of the self dependency of Iran in terms of the ballistic missiles and other people.
You mean self-sufficiency, right? Not dependent.
Sorry, self-defense, self-efficiency. Yeah. And this is the exercise they have been advocating for, and I'm not very actually for this kind of argument. I actually think going to Russia and China is actually massive help for the audience said, the communication between these countries and people to people bond. But I'm just trying to explain what I understand from their behavior.
Yeah, yes, totally understandable. I agree. 关于刚才所说的这个，另外还有一点就是在伊朗国内和整个抵抗之湖来说，都是非常强调独立自主、奋发图强、自行开发等等这些，所以这一点在很大程度上也导致了就是亲政府派、亲革命派，就是普遍是亲中俄的这一批人群会更多，就是有想法是待在伊朗国内，然后包括进行建设。当然这里还有一个就是有些时候会有相关的保密条款的限制啊等等这些，就使得他们这种待在国内独立自主的倾向会要更强一些。那么这就自然导致了你比如说对华对俄交流在这个方面是没有那么强的这样一个倾向，至少没有说构成一个主流选项。嘉宾本人并不同意这种观点，并且认为伊朗未来发展需要有更多的对华对俄交流。但是现在呢，就像刚刚说的，在伊朗本国主流确实变成就是出去的基本上都是亲欧美的，亲中俄的基本上都不想出去，这种情况是非常明显的。Okay, so I think we have kind of talked quite thoroughly about this question, and we can move on to the next topic. Yeah, the Mahsa Amini incident and your personal experience during that event is quite interesting because we have just discussed so much about female rights in Iran, and this is actually quite a good example where we can see like how different segments of Iranian society stand on this matter, and how did the 2022 the Mahsa Amini incident actually change things, change society in Iran. Okay, I will translate this part first. 好的，那么第一部分关于抵抗之湖对中俄的态度这一点，我们基本上已经讲的差不多了。接下来我们来进入第二部分，那就是2022年由玛莎阿米尼之死所导致的整个之后一系列的示威暴动，然后整个这一个头巾风云，也是国内近2年可能是关注度最高、知名度最高的伊朗国内事件，对于伊朗来说究竟意味着什么，然后改变了什么？ Yeah, you can start.
Okay. So Masa Amini started. I think 2 months or less was the time that I came to Iran from Australia. And I remember back then I was not actually wearing hijab in the streets. That was the thing for me and for so many other people like me to practice in the streets of Tehran and other cities, big cities, actually, I have to say. And it was not acceptable by even my own family. They were saying that, okay, there is going to be some consequences for you and you have to watch out. And what my response was that, okay, this is a very fight that Iranian women should have, like whoever doesn't believe in hijab, obviously, not everyone. And it needs to be continued, and it needs to be continued in a very organic way. Like we have to resist this law. And for me, it's only my very personal experience. During that time, which is I think around 2 months, I was going to the downtown of Tehran. I was using public transport, but I didn't see any morality police in the streets. Maybe I was very, very, very lucky. But I was expecting them to be somewhere anyway, because it's been more than 10 years that the morality police is in action.
Oh, it's been more than
What
10
happened?
years. Okay, so that
Yeah,
is when around like after 2012, 2013, basically after Rouhani, like they become inactive?
not after Rouhani, before
Yeah.
Rouhani, even
Okay,
more than
even
10
before.
years.
Okay, I
Yeah,
see.
yes. So um, I remember when I was a university student, before 2009, maybe 2008. I was arrested by the morality police in one of the very popular squares in Tehran. I don't know if I should stop here. You want
Oh
to
no, it's
translate, or
actually
I should
fine.
continue?
It's really fine. Like I think this is
Okay.
topic. Like if you are fine talking about it, like what's your
No, no,
experience
sure.
dealing with moral police? Yeah.
So I was arrested,
Yeah.
and they took me to the detention.
Sorry, for what reason?
Before,
May I ask for what reason did
yeah,
they
I
arrest
don't
you?
actually remember. It was a while ago, but I think my outfit wasn't meeting the criteria of the police,
Okay.
and that's why they stopped me. But I was very, very vocal and loud in the street, and I started to be like, "You cannot arrest me," and they were like, "We're not arresting you. We're just asking for your ID number." That was not the case.
Okay.
At the end, I was arrested, and they were saying that you are being so loud because you are in a group and we don't see them, and they are trying to film you and send to Masih Alinejad, who I'm not sure if you guys know her. She is a very famous, unpopular figure for women's rights in Iran. She lives in United States, and she has a actually very funny history. And I said, no, I'm not seeing anyone. I'm not part of in any group. Second.
Yes. Okay.
I'm just myself, and I'm against this kind of cruel behavior of you. But even then, they didn't hit me. They didn't use any bad word against me, and they just accused me by like I'm part of a group. Eventually, they arrested me. They took me to detention, and they wanted to take picture of me. And I was making fun of them. I was laughing, and I was trying to reject what they're asking me. So it took them a long time to actually make me to take a picture. And then they asked my family to bring me more hijab. Very interesting. Sorry, it was a very interesting experience, but it was very normal. Like we were doing it, and we were doing it because we knew at the end we are going to kind of convince the government this is not right, this is not on. And later also there were another incidents that I was involved.
Okay. I will translate this thing first. So like, okay,
Sure.
my question would be, how would you like, if you want to use one word to generalize your encounter with moral police in the past, like, would you call it's relatively civil?
Yes.
Like compare let's say with the actual official police. Did you like?
Yes.
Okay, so the encounter was relatively civil. Like, how long were you detained, by the way?
Oh no, it was maybe less than 1 hour, 2 hours.
Okay, I see. Okay.
They don't keep anyone. They just take you there, and they ask your family to come to just intimidate you and to just use the family against you. That's it.
Okay, so you
I
don't.
mean,
Okay. Like, do they like? Is it because they don't have the authority to actually imprison anyone, or?
No, they don't imprison. Like, I don't remember any kind of example or incident that people were imprisoned because of hijab. That's all. Like, they take you, they take picture, and they make sure you're not gonna do it again, and they ask your family to come and to make sure they also know about the incident. So they're going to be the force for hijab within the family.
Okay, this sounds like some sort of like school headmaster or something like
that. Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so it's just the photos. Like, did it take, let's say, fingerprints or DNA samples, things like that?
Yeah.
Okay, so basically taking all this sort of taking records, etc. Okay, I see. 好那么这是一个比较这是一个就是很有乐子的一个案例啊，就是你可能在别的地方听不到这个，就是当事人亲身回忆当初被道德警察抓，那么这是很久以前08、09年的时候。有几点啊，就是第一点是在过去10年当中，我之前差不多讲过这个，就2012年之后，就内贾德任期末尾，其实道德警察就已经不怎么管事儿，就已经不怎么干活了，就已经是属于几乎是养闲人的一个状态了。包括嘉宾本人在之前回国的时候，在差不多2021、2022回国的时候，他本人就已经没有看到任何道德警察了。就是道德警察应该还存在，但是现在其实存在感都已经非常低了。这也是我当时就是过去10年，其实道德警察就没怎么干活。然后呢，在08、09年，就是那个时期，算是内贾德上台以后复兴道德警察鼎盛期的时候嘉宾本人当时在一次抗议当中，主要抗议也是因为头巾，因为嘉宾本人自己是反对强制戴头巾的，是反对头巾法。在抗议过程当中呢，他当时被那个道德警察给逮了，道德警察当街逮人，然后呢，道德警察就指控他我知道你这个是受境外势力指使，你这肯定在一个团体当中，你在那边大喊大叫，就为了别的人可以拍照片、拍视频，然后发到西方势力那边去我知道你在跟境外势力，在跟这个应该叫做马西阿里内贾德，这是一个在美国的一个高一记者，在美国的一个这个高一这个伊朗人，然后在美国的这么样一个记者。然后包括在2022年玛莎阿米尼事件之后，那么他也搞了一大堆类似的报道，就这种典型的，反正大家懂的都懂，是吧？就柴静这种懂的都懂然后道德警察就说你这个肯定是你这个是有所图谋、有阴谋，你这是与外国势力勾结就嘉宾表示没有，不存在的，没有这种事儿，好吧？然后接着就把他给逮了，但是逮了的话是这个样子，就是嘉宾本人回忆，而且我也不记得，就是伊朗道德警察应该是无权进行任何囚禁的，他最多只能把你带回去问话教育，然后关了1-2个小时，拍了个照片，然后是那个取了样指纹DNA 这些留记录，方便以后查。然后接着打电话叫家里人过来，要求过来的时候记得给他把头巾给带过来。然后接着就是算是训了一顿话，批评教育一番，然后家里人过来，大概1-2个小时就把人给领走了这是属于和道德警察遭遇过被逮的人的亲身体验。Okay, so to interrupt a bit, there's another super chat asking the question, which is also quite an interesting question, I would say. What he saw from a lot of videos, particularly Chinese tourists in Iran, he saw that Iranians are very show great hospitality to visitors, like to tourists. For Chinese, sometimes they're feeling that there's too much hospitality. Like some of them would invite people to come as guests in their house and even giving a lot of presents. So he would like to ask whether this is more like towards foreigners or particular, or even among Iranians, this sort of hospitality. Is it the normal situation?
Yes, it is normal. And I should say, I think whatever Chinese tourists are experiencing in Iran, they have to multiply it, I don't know, in 10 maybe. And that would be the attitude towards Western tourists in Iran. Because the bluer eyes you have, you are more welcome in Iran, unfortunately, especially in big cities.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's a good thing about this culture, that people are kind of kind with the guests. And I have to say, even though it's not an ideal situation for the Afghani refugees in Iran, but I think around 6 million refugees are living in Iran, and there are so many of them that they are undocumented. But it's not only about the government who is welcoming them to the country. It's actually, I think it's rooted in the culture of like Iranians, that they accept guests, and they are trying their best to actually make it more better atmosphere for them and better experience for them in Iran, especially because Iran has been very isolated in after the revolution. And even though the opposition in Iran, whoever is not very friendly with the government, they also want to change this kind of image of Iran, that is a very hostile country, and everyone is so like arrogant, and there is nothing good about this country. Everyone is trying their best to actually change this narrative. And I think it's one of the very few examples that Iranians are still together, and they show one thing as Iranian culture.
I see. 好了，回答刚才的问题，就是这种对游客的热情是通用的，就是对中国人，然后包括伊朗人内部，他们互相之间，这算是文化的一部分。我也同意，就是整体来说，中东文化对于宾客、对于来访者都是非常礼貌、非常尊敬、非常热情。然后接着呢，单纯从对外国人的角度来说，就是不光是中国人，虽然嘉宾也表示啊，就是有一点不得不承认的是，普遍特别的大城市里面，对于西方人啊关系就是会显得特别友好、特别殷勤。嘉宾原话是啊，你眼睛越蓝，一般来说受到的待遇就越好。但是这并不代表说对其他人会有歧视，这一点我认为是跟日韩不一样的，就是你东方人，你顶着东方人面孔去日韩，和你顶着西方人面孔去日韩，那是真的天差地别，那是绝对的天差地别。你如果要什么黑人、印度人，那更是极度公开的歧视。但是伊朗确实就是整体来说，对于外部来客，比如说最典型的阿富汗难民，那么伊朗境内应该是据说是有600万难民，包括公开有记录的和没有记录的，有大量的阿富汗难民。那么不管是伊朗政府还是一般民众，实际上对于这些外来难民都是非常友好的，都是尽可能的试图接纳，在各方面难民政策等等各个方面是做得非常好的，而且这个方面甚至是获得了联合国认可的。另外一点就是，自从革命以来，由于伊朗是一个受到大量制裁、被高度孤立的国家，所以实际上不管是从上到下，伊朗政府在这方面甚至是和反对派之间都能达成共识。不管是伊朗政府、一般民众，还有包括反对派，都希望在外界游客面前改善伊朗的形象，让外界不是说把伊朗当做一个是冷漠居民和人民对外来人高度敌视，不是这个样子。所以实际上是一个从上到下都在进行，存在大量公共共识的一个改善国家的在外人当中的形象的这样一个一整套的从上到下，从传统文化一直到整体的政府官方政策，再到说就是一般的在革命后的民间的政治共识，这几点是都存在的，所以就可以看到明显的对外来游客的热情。Yeah, okay, so yeah, this is a very good question. So let's continue. Okay, let's go back to Masha Amini. So after your personal experience, what's your experience during 2022 after Masha Amini's death?
Yeah. So I just gave you a background of who I was
Okay.
before Mahsa Amini because I think it's important to have it in mind. What happened in that day was horrific, and everyone was very upset. Everyone was very shocked that this girl lost her life in the detention. Later, the two journalists from the same newspaper that I mentioned before, Sharq, which is East newspaper, they released photos of her dying. And people gathered in front of the hospital where Mahsa Amini was. I think it was Sadra Hospital in Tehran. And yeah, after maybe I should say 2-3 days. Back then, President Raisi was actually in Shanghai meeting for joining of Iran to Shanghai organization, which was very important for everyone. And it was after I think I need to type it. It was after Arba'in, which is a day of the 40th day of the death of Imam Hussein, which is very, very important for, let me write it down, which is very important for Shia culture.
I know. So basically pilgrims go to Najaf, right?
Yes. And in 2022, it was around 22 million people who actually did the walk and the march towards Najaf, and it was a massive, massive news for everyone. So right after these two phenomena, that thing happened, and the first days, everyone was like, "All right, enough is enough. The morality police has to go." But it didn't take too much time for the opposition to actually see this opportunity as the goldest opportunity ever to actually not stop as like, all right, this is the demand. We don't want morality police anymore. They stopped everyone talking about this. And I vividly remember that like everyone was posting on Instagram and Twitter that, all right, morality police has to stop. But then after a couple of hours, when the hashtag of Mahsa Amini was actually being so viral, like in millions and millions, no one actually continued talking about morality police, and everyone was just talking about the Iranian government. Not even talking about hijab, not even talking about freedom of hijab. Like this is more radical, right? Like one step is that no more morality police. The next step is that no more mandatory hijab. But that wasn't the demand anymore. And when I say anymore, it just took us a couple of days to get to the point that no more Iranian government. That's it. Do you want to translate or?
Okay, I'll translate this part first. 好了，那么玛莎阿米事件如果从伊朗视角来说，就是关于这个事件的具体，就是还存在大量争议性。但是简单来说，就是当时在2022年，当时可能大家还记得，这个年轻女性玛莎阿米尼因为没有戴头巾，被道德警察叫去质询，接着质询结束之后不久就非常离奇的死亡了。那么整个过程有很多的疑点，但是在当时的第一反应是，这个死亡是由于道德警察把他拉过去造成的。然后呢，当时是个什么情况？实际上，在这次事件出现之前不久之前，刚刚2件事件，而且这2件事件基本上都是对伊朗政府有利的。一件事是玛莎阿米尼事件发生的时候，伊朗总统伊布拉辛莱西正在参加上合组织正式签订伊朗成为上合成员国的相关会议。那么这个对于伊朗国内来说是一件非常重大事件，存在大量关注，并且呢也认为是一个对政府是属于有利好消息的事件。还有另外一个事情是在当时这件事情发生之前，阿尔拜恩刚刚结束不久。那么阿尔拜恩可能大家不是特别熟悉，就是阿尔拜恩是伊玛目侯赛因在卡尔巴拉战死之后第40天吧，应该是，就是这段时间是一个大量的朝圣者从伊拉克前往伊朗前往圣城纳杰夫参拜，是一个非常重大的事项。就每年这算是伊朗伊拉克两国双边关系当中最重要的一项事务。2022年当时在阿尔拜恩之前， 伊拉克大中度联军还专门进行了大规模的反恐行动，以确保阿尔拜恩沿途的安全，不会受到恐怖袭击等等。那么当年22年是个高峰点，一共有2200万人在伊朗和伊拉克参加了阿尔拜恩朝圣。那么所以这2件事都是属于对政府有利好消息。结果是当时玛莎阿米尼这个事件一出现之后，立刻就出现了巨大的公众声浪。那么这件事情发生之后，在各大社交媒体上就立刻出现了要求说是废除道德警察啊，这个事情就是大家已经忍受够了，道德警察不能再继续存在了，道德警察啥都不干，道德警察只干坏事，我们要废除道德警察。但是接着就开始出现问题了，那就是大量的伊朗的亲欧美、亲西方媒体开始把这个视作一个黄金时期，开始使用这点搞事。那么这个事情从一开始就很不正常，在于什么呢？从过去的事件来看，当有道德警察或者相关的丑闻出现这种有人员死亡的时候，一般来说，它这个升级，民间舆论升级是还需要一个时间，而且分阶段。最开始是反对道德警察，然后是反对头巾法，反对必须要戴头巾等等。但是玛莎阿米尼事件的升级速度非常之快，整个过程网上媒体在短短几天之内走完了这整个升级流程，而且几乎是一瞬间从纪念玛莎阿米尼，要求解散道德警察，在几天之内就快速升级为了要求伊朗政府直接滚蛋，要求伊朗政府下台。而这个升级速度根据过往经验来说是属于快的不正常，快到猝不及防的。Yeah, okay. Finish translation. You can continue.
Sure. When it happened, everyone was talking about regime change. Things were radicalized very quickly, and it was unbelievable. Like I did see the Green Movement in 2009, and there was nothing in compare to what happened a couple of years before in Iran. Nothing was similar to this. The level of the I should say anger and aggression among the youth was unpredictable, and people were just justifying all the activities were happening in the streets of Iran. There are misinformation about the killings of youth in Tehran streets, like constantly. There are so many names that police kill this girl and that girl every single day, like BBC Persian and another is Iran International. These two were the most horrific channels that Iranians were following back then and still. And what is happening was that the constant hybrid war against Iran, and as I said, it wasn't anymore about women. I remember when I was discussing this issue with people online and in different platforms, everyone, even not everyone, but there were so many threats against us as women who were outspoken about freedom and about the demand to finish the morality police. They were saying to us that we are going to rape you, we are going to kill you, we are going to slaughter you, because you are defending.
This is from the pro government camp or pro liberal camp?
No. They are the supporters of women life freedom movement.
Okay.
That they were very dangerous and scary. But at the same time, the situation was
why did they threaten you for? At what point did they start to threaten people like you? For what reason?
Because we were saying that we are against the morality police, but the regime change is not the solution. What you are asking for is actually against the entire national security. What you are asking for is actually going too far, and you are following what Americans and Israeli are actually funding, and this is a project. It's not something that we have to follow, because we're not going to go somewhere good from here. And they were saying that, oh, you are a supporter of the government and you are going to be killed. And that was the case. Like, it was reality, because I think almost 60 cops were killed during women life. Oh my God, I forgot. Women life freedom movement. And everyone was justifying it. They were like, yeah, they started the aggression and this is the response they take. And we just need to zoom out and look at the map of Iran. All around the borders in Iran, there are almost ethnicities that living. Southeast is Baluchi people, and we are bordering with Pakistan and Afghanistan. At the west, we have Arabs and Kurdish. We are bordering with Kurdistan, with Iraq, and even the area between Turkish and Kurdish at the northwest. All these areas were on fire.
How about the
interesting
Azeris?
thing about
How about the Azeris?
How about
the Azeris in Iran? Like, what's their like this is a very interesting topic. Like, for the Azeris in Iran, which is about like 20%, 25% of Iranian population, like how do they view themselves?
I understand which ethnicity you are referring to.
The Azeris, or do you call them, let's say, Azerbaijani, or
Azeris?
yeah.
Well, Azeris were not as involved in the women life freedom movement as others, especially Kurdish and Baluchi.
Okay.
There were terrorist attacks against the police station in Sistan, Baluchistan, which is the southeast of Iran, and more than 50 people were killed. And in the Kurdish area of Iran, everything was on fire. And even for a couple of nights, people were literally scared that we are going to lose. So from the incident and the death of Mahsa Amini, which I have to say, all the proof that the government provided after the speech of President Raisi was that the death was actually not, it was triggered by the detaining the girl, but actually it wasn't something that they were beating her or they were doing something on purpose to actually kill her. She died, and her father had a very popular interview right after the death, and she said, there is no document and evidence of my daughter being sick before, but that was a big lie, because later there was some proof that no, actually this woman was in hospital for a couple of times, and she even came to Tehran to seek some medication, and it was actually about her brain surgery or some brain situation that I don't actually remember. But what I 100% sure about is that the incident was 100% wrong, because they shouldn't have detained this girl for not having proper hijab. But the thing is, they didn't beat her to death. And no one wanted to actually acknowledge this fact, because acknowledging this fact was equal to supporting the government.
I see. Okay, I will translate this part first.
Sure.
好了，在当时玛莎阿米尼死后，当时就像我们刚刚说的，整个事态迅速升级，并且完全失控。然后，特别是在伊朗边境地区少数民族聚集区，最主要是西北的库尔德地区和东南部的俾路支西斯坦省，也就是俾路支人聚集区。那么这个可能大家还有印象，在当时在整个包括库尔德地区是包括存在大量的纵火对军警的袭击，然后在俾路支那边是有个警察局被打，然后整个过程很快是伊朗警察是死亡人数超过60人，非常多的死亡。然而在伊朗国内，包括在德黑兰，很多支持人就说啊，这是政府先干的，政府先打死人了，所以我们打死这么多警察是合理的。然后当时在整个伊朗互联网上 存在大量假信息，每天就是假信息，都是政府又打死人了，政府又打死了几个人，每天都是这类的假信息，然后完全煽动起群众，特别是在当时很多反政府派系直接就冷眼旁观，表示啊，你们干了这事儿，你们打死人了。那之后出现任何的反对意见，出现任何包括报复、打死警察，那都是你们活该啊，那都是没什么好说的。所以就很多人，特别是反政府派，是完全采取冷眼旁观或者煽动态度。然后当时还有一个最令人绷不住的是啊，就是嘉宾本人在网上和那些所谓的支持女权运动、支持妇女权益的人交流啊，嘉宾和其他朋友跟他们交流说，好，我们同意道德警察必须解散，但是你们这有些要求直接要求推翻政府，你们这个就过分了，你们这个是直接按照美国人和以色列人想要的剧本来。啊，当他们说了这句之后，注意，这还是女性说这个话，这群原本所谓的女权主义者啊，支持女性权益的，直接跑过来就啊，你们再敢支持政府，你们这么说就是支持政府，你们再敢支持政府，我们就强奸你们，民主之后杀全家啊，直接立刻快速升级到这个程度啊，就只能说比较厉害，只能说就比较厉害，然后就这样就存在大量的假信息，而且特别是当时针对年轻人的煽动，导致年轻人情绪非常激动，群情激愤。在刚刚发生这件事情之后，应该是1-2天，这个死者玛莎阿米的父亲做了一个采访，这个采访里面说，我女儿在被道德警察关押之前，没有任何过去外伤，没有任何旧的疾病记录，这一定是道德警察干的。然后这个采访被广泛采信，但实际上就是很多证据表明并不是这么一回事。首先是从已有的监控证据当中，道德警察并没有殴打这个女性。其次是后来应该查出说，他实际上是有之前的那个原本的疾病的，他原本就是脑部是存在一些疾病，他当时去德黑兰本身也是为了看病，也是为了治病去的，所以是有这个前期存在的这个症状的，是有这些问题，但是啊，没有人在乎了。就变成啊，你居然胆敢说道德警察当初没有打他，你一定是拿了政府的钱，你一定是亲伊朗政府，我们绝对不相信这种事情不存在啊，就是都存在这种情况，就是所以在当时就是一个极度群情激愤，然后大量民众态度非常极端，并且在边境上沿线出现了严重的暴力事件。当时存在大量担心说库尔德地区会不会完全失控的这样的担忧和风险。从现在的角度来看啊，就特别从现在的角度来看，基本上可以认为2022年那一波算是西方和以色列基本上是激活了在伊朗的所有说是这种间谍资源呐、卧底啊、潜在的这些，然后当时是真的准备看能不能这一波把伊朗搞掉的，是有这个想法。不过事后证明，就是因为这一波的失败，实际上导致就是说整体西方在伊朗的间谍网啊、这个前置资源呐、等等，原本准备了多年的潜伏资源基本上都被端掉了。所以你如果真要从事后上来说，你这个其实挺浪费的，就是强行在这个时间点硬要搞出这一起，然后呢，在当时伊朗可以相对来说集中精力来处理和应对国内问题，最后实际上是你废掉了一张本来可以在别的时候打的好牌。Yeah, okay, so this part is finished.
So here I just wanna talk a bit about the 752 airplane, the Ukrainian airplane that was hit by the Iranian Air Force.
That was 2020, right? After the assassination. Okay, yeah. Is it related to this event in some way?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
So one of the people who lost her life there was the wife of Hamed Ismailion that I shared the name with you in the chat.
Yeah.
So Hamed Ismailion became one of the biggest leaders and figures for the Women Life Freedom movement. He started a massive campaign in Canada, trying to make all the opposition together, from Masih Alinejad to Reza Pahlavi, whoever was, and MEK, the Mujahideen, and Kurdish activists and I should say terrorist groups, all of them together under the kind of leadership of Hamed Esmailion. They came together and they start the campaign for women life freedom. And everyone was having their own job to do. For example, Masih Alinejad, that has a very, very dark history. She, before when the Trump administration was in power, she was meeting with Campo. Later in Women Life Freedom, she went to Paris and she met with Macron. And all of them were just trying to use any possible lobby to actually not only, they were not satisfied with sanctions. They were saying we are fed up by this kind of sanction rhetoric. It didn't work. It didn't overthrow the government. We need military interfere from the Americans, from NATO. And they were so outspoken about it. They organized a rally in Berlin, which was a moment for us in Iran. Everyone was just watching it, that how many people are actually, they are capable of organizing and mobilizing to the streets of Berlin. And it was very interesting. Like they were saying, there are free tickets for whoever live in Europe to actually get to Berlin. And people from even Canada, they were traveling to Germany to participate in this rally and protest against Iran. What I'm saying here is that all the open ones from the opposition before the Women Life Freedom movement started to be at the top and show itself as another reason that we have to overthrow this government. And right now the European Union and also the Americans are not doing enough. And even they asked for free zone for Iran to actually, and they were using for when the airplanes are not allowed.
Oh, okay, I see. The one in Libya, right? The no air zone, right?
They even demanded that, and the excuse for it was that, okay, the Iranian government has killed 176 passengers in the airplane, so they're not qualified, they're not reliable, and they are going to do the same thing in the middle of Women Life Freedom. So there is no guarantee for us to actually, defend our lives in Iran.
But these people are already overseas, right? They are not really living in Iran.
I remember there was a friend of mine. She sent me a petition, and she lived in Australia back then. She's still living there. Yeah. She sent me a petition to sign, and the petition was that asking the Australian government to sanction Iran because of Women Life Freedom. And I said, how is that going to help? And she was like, we just need this government to go. And this person is very interesting example because she was actually from a very governmental family. So this is kind of the reality of the Iranian government. There are so many, the next generation of the governmental families, when they get whatever they can from the government and from the country, then they show their real face and they start to actually have campaigns against Iran when they are outside of Iran.
And then we are quite familiar with that phenomenon. Yeah, we are quite familiar with that.
And then I said, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to sign this petition. And she said, look, you are in Melbourne and you have a very safe life. Think about people in Iran. I said, well, I am not in Melbourne. I am in Tehran right now. If you want, I can take a selfie. And she couldn't believe it. And she said, no, you have to. Anyway, so what I'm saying here is that it was so horrific how all these groups got together to make this allyship against Iran. And it was also very funny because if you're having Reza Pahlavi, he is from monarchy, which means he's not a pro-separatist group like Kurdish or Baluchi groups. But they were together. They were like, we will sort out these problems later, after the revolution. So they start calling the movement as a revolution. And they said, we're not worried about this problem now. We will sort it out later. But later, actually, what happened was all of them become divided. There is no name from Hamed Ismailion anymore. No one knows where is he now. Like he's just having his very ordinary life now. All of them start to fight each other, and the entire coalition that they were so proud to make, it's gone now.
Okay, yeah.
Barely we hear anything from Masih Alinejad now.
Yeah, I agree. They kind of just vanished. Also including Pahlavi. I was very surprised, when they actually invited Pahlavi. I was like, are the Zionists and the Americans that desperate now? Like he was just literally a joke. And inviting him, even see like visiting Netanyahu and yeah, that was already Joe Biden. Yeah, I was like, do they not have a better stooge to use that they had to resort to Pahlavi? That was quite stupid, I'd say. But yeah, that was the state.
Sorry, I have to say, even the invitation when Pahlavi went to Netanyahu, everyone was making fun of the picture that they sent. It was very funny. It wasn't even in the office, like in the real office. It was two chairs, only Pahlavi and Netanyahu, somewhere in the middle of nowhere, and they didn't even take him seriously. Like he's an idiot, and they knew he's an idiot.
Yeah.
But still, they invited him to just make some news. But actually, like it was funny. Even for the opposition, it was funny. It was the start of the journey for people like ordinary people in middle class Tehranian. That okay, that's not serious. It sounds like a joke to us now.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so let's go back. So the Berlin rally you mentioned. So how was it? Like, was it like as big as people expected?
Well, it wasn't as big as people were expecting it, but it was kind of big. Like I personally, I was a bit surprised. It wasn't so many people. I think I'm not very clear about the number, but what I remember from pictures, it was like something 10,000 or 20,000 people, something like this.
Okay, that was actually not a lot. That was not a lot.
Yeah, of course. But the entire woman life freedom, I have to say, after maybe 2 weeks, it was outside of Iran anyway. So that was the full force of the opposition to actually show to the government that we have some power. That was the entire thing that they could do, and the result was actually not actually very important, and no one actually was caring about this. And the Berlin rally, I think, was also another turning point for the ordinary people in Iran to actually not have enough hope in what opposition is saying and in the reality what actually they're capable of doing. So they start to think that maybe they shouldn't invest in the opposition and what they are claiming that they are able to do.
Yeah, I agree. Good point. I will translate this part first. 这一段就是比较有意思，还包括一些具体人物，这些在外国可能我们都不太熟的人物。在当时，整个这次示威，整个2022年玛莎阿米尼事件，在当时相当于反对派组成一个联盟，所谓的那个妇女生命自由啊，这个整个运动以玛莎阿米尼这个事件为契机。当时这个运动的发起者和最重要组织者是这个人，哈米德·伊斯麦里昂。他的老婆是在2020年在苏莱曼尼遇刺之后，当时伊朗在报复事件过程当中，伊朗的革命卫队的防空部队打下了一架民航客机，然后呢，他的老婆当时在那架飞机上这是他这个成名的这个契机。然后接着他在这件事情上作为中心组织者，拉起了能够想到的几乎所有伊朗的海外反对派，这个就很逗，就是所有人，包括我们刚刚说的那个那个高一记者，那个在美国那个伊朗人，还有各路反对派，最经典的他把老皇帝把巴列维的儿子给喊过来。然后同时甚至包括库尔德地区和俾路支地区的分裂武装等等，这些人全都给跑到一起去，然后他们当时号称说我们要集结全部人，我们要集结全部这个海外的反对伊朗政府的力量，我们在柏林搞一个大集会。然后这群人是非常激进的，他们是表示经济制裁已经不够了， 美国和欧洲的经济制裁对伊朗政府没有任何意义，根本就没法影响到伊朗。我们要怎么地？我们要求直接军事干涉、武力干涉。要怎么样武力干涉？直接在伊朗上空搞禁飞区。为什么要搞禁飞区？因为伊朗当年就类似利比亚那种禁飞区，利比亚式禁飞区啊。因为伊朗当年曾经打下一架民航客机啊，所以对我们来说，我们感觉非常的不安全啊。不安です，我们担心在我们回去的时候，我们会被伊朗政府给打下来，所以我们要求西方提供保护，西方在全伊朗上空拉禁飞区啊。我就很想吐槽，就是你们这帮人不是都在国外吗？你们这帮人不是都在海外吗？你们还回啥伊朗啊？好，重点是当时表示说开大会拉了所有人啊，从欧洲到美国到加拿大再到澳大利亚，全世界的伊朗论人团结起来，我们要在柏林进行一场大规模的集会，让政府看看我们有多么大的活动能量。然后这个事情在伊朗是件大事。当时伊朗都在围观，说就是都民间政府都在关注，说他们这个事情能够拉起多大的人，能够拉起多大一个声势，包括在澳大利亚那边，嘉宾当时朋友在澳大利亚在澳大利亚给他发了一个邮件，叫他参加签名请愿，反对伊朗政府的请愿。然后这里又是一个黑色幽默了，这里又来了啊！这个朋友本人是。他家里其实基本上都是有伊朗政府背景，属于伊朗官二代、绿二代甚至是绿三代这种就是他家里有背景，然后接着出国了，跑去了墨尔本，就是在之前反正能搞到多少资源是多少，跑到墨尔本之后就立刻开始当反贼。就立刻开始反对伊朗，这种非常经典的端起碗吃肉，放下碗骂娘这种情况。然后就非常乐在于什么呢？他朋友给嘉宾发这个邮件说：“你赶快签名吧！你想想那些留在伊朗的可怜的女孩子们，你想想那些在政府压迫下苦不堪言、马上没命的年轻人，你还不赶快签这个协议，让澳大利亚政府对伊朗进行更加严厉的制裁？”嘉宾表示：“我不签啊！你这个推翻伊朗政府并不能改变现状啊！”然后嘉宾朋友就苦口婆心相劝你人在墨尔本，你不知道那伊朗人过得可太惨了，你想想我们在伊朗的亲戚们吧。注意，这个朋友本人也在澳大利亚。嘉宾表示，我人不在墨尔本我人回德黑兰了，你要不要我拍个自拍给你看？我现在就在德黑兰。然后他朋友表示不可能，你绝对在说谎，你怎么可能在看到了西方世界之后还选择跑回愚昧落后的德黑兰这个就特别逗，就身在澳大利亚的高一教育留在德黑兰的人，你要爱伊朗，你不懂伊朗，我比你懂然后这结果是闹了这么大的声势，全世界伊朗论人大串联，然后最后柏林的游行也没多少人，说最后可能只去了1-2万人吧，就非常非常可怜的规模。我当时也是一副这根本没多少人就说包括这对伊朗内部产生了一个效应是什么呢？就是实际上在差不多开始2周之后，这些所谓的反对派就很多都已经不在伊朗进行活动了，伊朗国内就全是各种骚乱和直接搞事，很多反对派都跑国外去了。然后呢，就是当时还有很多人在观望，就看看你们跑了这么多的人，你们这号称全世界伊朗大串联，当时号称说每一个在欧洲的伊朗人都能够平均人均分到3张机票，大家都要跑去柏林参加这个大聚会。然后结果就是所有人都在观望，你们能够拉起多少人，大家都在看你们反对派有多大能量，然后最后也只拉起来1-2万人。结果这个就导致什么呢？就导致伊朗国内大部分反对政府的民众开始对反对派失望了，就是原本指望你们能支棱起来推翻政府，然后你们全世界串联就只能串联起1-2万人。所以包括后来另外一个事，就是内塔尼亚胡还有当时应该拜登也会见了小巴列维，就是被推翻的老皇帝的儿子。这人是个知名白痴，有必要说明 啊，这人是个知名白痴，不管在伊朗国内还是国外，都知道这个人是个白痴。然后当这个人和内塔尼亚胡见面以后，国内反对派极度失望，表示他已经没法用了，这个人已经不用指望了。注意，这个失望不是因为说知道巴列维和以色列勾结，不是人人都知道巴列维和以色列勾结，而且伊朗反对派也不在乎这个，就是他们主要失望的原因是在整个过程当中他的表现过于愚蠢，而且美西方明显不拿他当回事儿，都不是在什么正式官邸会面，就随便找了个地方见了一面。然后反对派就觉得不行，你这个人太蠢了啊！我们跟着你造反，大80%我们全部都要掉脑袋。然后结果就是以这个柏林集会这个作为一个转折点，在之后基本上就是这反对派集会，就是伊朗国内民间对于反对派的支持就完全不存在了。然后照片里这个哈米德那个伊斯马里人现在不知道这个人去哪儿了，不知道他在干嘛，包括很多其他参与这次集会的反对派现在也是已经不知道他们在哪里，不知道他们在干嘛了，就完全没用了。而且他们在伊朗国内哪怕在反对派当中也变成笑柄，信用完全崩盘了。Okay, yeah, this part is finished.
So what happened was during Women Like Freedom was that the point was the entire entity of Iran. Like it wasn't about Islamic Republic. It was about the existence of this country right in the middle of West Asia, which wasn't very tolerated since the revolution.
You mean the opposition was tolerated?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And what I mean by the entity of Iran is that during the Women Like Freedom, it was the World Cup in Qatar. And football is very, very important in Iran. Everyone watches a national team football, like since I remember.
Yeah.
But during this time, middle class was refusing to watch the games, and they were saying that this is Khamenei's team. This is not Iran's team, and we have to boycott the games, and we have to not watch the matches. And
why? I mean,
for
okay,
me,
okay. Sorry for the interruption, but I remember like
no.
The team leader of Iran's team during the World Cup, like kind of refused to sing the national anthem. I remember to kind of express his opposition.
And that was under the influence of the Instagrammy activists of Iran who were pushing this kind of agenda for the national team, that if you are not Khamenei's team and if you are Iranian team, you shouldn't play. And the least thing they could do is that not actually respecting the national anthem. That I think that was a very big mistake. But the thing is, I was accused again by people that only because I watch the games, I am betraying the movement, and you should have to follow the principle and not do this, because this is not right. They are playing over the blood of the youth of Iranians. Mahsa Amini's blood is on the football game, and you have to stop doing this. And people, when Iran lost to England, and the result actually was very embarrassing for everyone. It was 6-0, and everyone knew it's coming from the level of anxiety that the players had. Everything was so stressful for them. But the next game, when they won well, we went to the street to actually celebrate the win, and it was very, very sad because people were actually so divided, and whoever was celebrating the win was being labeled as Daesh. Daesh means the Iranian version of Daesh, means ISIS. And the next game was Iran and America. Again, Iran lost. And again, now people were going to the street to celebrate the win of Americans, and they were raising the American flags in the street with the Mahsa Amini picture that, yes, we are winning, and this is the first signs of our victory.
Okay, sorry. They are actually
okay.
raising American flag alongside with pictures of Masha Amini. Like from my perspective, that seems like kind of a self-confession that yeah, we are pro-America. Okay,
There is no shame for them. There is no shame
okay.
for them. They didn't hide it. Maybe there was a time for them to put energy and effort to hide this, but it was a time in Iran that no one had no shame. They were like, yeah, Zionism, America, they are all good. We just don't want the government.
Okay, okay, I see.
And tomorrow, like we just won Japan in the Asian Cup, and it was very sweet for me, sweet moment for me, because again, people are gathering in their homes and cafes to watch the football games. It's very heartwarming. I know that sounds a bit ridiculous and funny that we are in this level of unification as a country, but like tomorrow we have another game with Qatar, and everyone is actually waiting for it, and everyone is talking about it again in Instagram. And I remember all these people were boycotting the national team because it's a Khamenei team, and now they are watching it and they are actually enjoying that we won Japan. And like again, there is a sense of nationality coming back
Okay,
to them,
sorry, but
which is good.
what exactly is their justification saying that this is a harmony team? Like, are there any reasons or something?
Well, don't look for reasons, but I should say we are mourning the death of young people in the streets of Iran. How come we can pay attention to football game? This is
Okay.
distraction from our
Oh,
revolution.
okay, I see.
We are overthrowing the government. This is a distraction. Just focus on the very front line that is very strong and overthrowing. I mean, you might laugh, but that was the news for Iran International for a couple of days, that Khamenei has sold everything and he will go to Venezuela soon. So, yeah.
Okay. Oh, okay, okay. Yeah, that's okay. Eye-opening. Okay, it's okay. Let's continue. Yep.
So, can I continue?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, there is another thing that I wanted to say. It's actually also funny. So there was a time in Tehran and also other big cities, but mainly in Tehran, when at 9 p.m., which is a culture from the revolution, they were copying everything from the revolution for this time, but in a very, very fake way. So 9 p.m., everyone goes to their windows and they start saying that death to the dictatorship, death to Iran, death to Sepah, and all this stuff.
Yeah, that is
Um,
actually another thing I find very interesting. That the slogan, as well as the way of organization used by the opposition, is kind of taken right out of the book of the Iranian government.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it's like
yeah.
they lack creativity so much that
Oh,
when
yeah.
they are fighting
Don't even
against
talk about
government,
creativity.
yeah,
No, don't expect that.
like how much can you like you have zero creativity so much that you have
Yeah,
to read the book from the government that you so
yeah,
hate to teach you how to fight against government. Yeah.
yeah. Absolutely. I mean, when Netanyahu, I mean, when Reza Pahlavi is your leader, so what would you expect?
Yeah.
Like, it's very
Okay.
funny.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was going to say, our building was actually very active, like the apartment that I'm right now living in. They
Yeah.
were very active in raising the slogans and stuff. So one day I heard, and I didn't say anything to them. I let them do whatever they want. But one day I was like, all right, I'm done. I have to raise my voice. They were using some Mujahideen Mek slogans, and it was very dangerous. And I talked to them in the group chat in WhatsApp that this is not acceptable. You cannot say these words. And they were like, oh, so we have a governmental spy in the building. And I was like, yes. But the funny thing is that they didn't even get scared of me. They continue whatever they wanted to. So I had to take more actions, actually actively going to stop them from going to their window and shouting at them. You cannot say these words. Do whatever you want. Say death to dictatorship. Say even death to SEPA. But you cannot outspokenly talk about a very terrorist group. It's not allowed. I mean, at the end, I was defeated, but I did my best.
Okay, I see. Okay, you want me to translate this part first?
Sure.
好，来，这个就属于润人大赏，反贼大赏，就是这个又回到经典问题了。你最大的错误不在于你坏，而在于你蠢啊！当时是个什么状态呢？就是这个我估计对于国内观众就大开眼界了。我们都记得当时一个经常被国内拿出来报道的伊朗反对派的重大胜利是伊朗足球队当时在卡塔尔世界杯上拒绝唱伊朗国歌，这被认为是一个重大胜利，是伊朗足球队、伊朗国足弃暗投明的一个表现。然而实际情况是在伊朗国内，在伊朗反贼群里面的说法是绝对不能支持足球队，这是绝对的乱搞。当时伊朗最重要的两个反贼媒体 BBC 波斯和伊朗国际总部在伦敦，可能有人还记得在去年的伊朗和沙特的这个和解条约里面有一条，就是沙特停止对伊朗国际的支持。好，然后当时的说法就是这一切都是哈梅内伊的阴谋。哈梅内伊看到伊朗局势即将失控，反对派已经取得了上风，哈梅内伊觉得必须要有一件事来分散伊朗人的注意力，然后这就是世界杯整个世界杯，整个伊朗球队参加比赛等等等等，这都是一个分散伊朗人的注意力，让我们遗忘在街头发生的流血事件，这一切都是政府的阴谋然后所以简单的来说，就是当时实际上是这个拒唱国歌之前有一个背景，就是当时有很强的明显有组织的在社交媒体上造势，就明确要求伊朗国足要么不打比赛，要么直接拒绝参赛，要么参赛的话至少拒绝唱国歌。所以当时这样本身就是存在一个，它不是说完全的足球队的自发的一个反应，当时是存在一个巨大的这个网上社交媒体层面的巨大压力，要他们这么做然后接着是在和那个英国队的比赛当中是打输了，当时打了个0-6，然后本身世界杯在伊朗是有极高的关注热情、极高的热度的，然后当时打了个0-6。这里另外一个搞笑的点是什么呢？就是足球在伊朗非常受到欢迎，有巨大的关注，然后一群反贼前一天在那边骂，坚决不许打比赛任何去打比赛的行为，任何分散我们注意力的行为，这都是哈梅内伊的阴谋，这都是政府的阴谋。第二天照样去看比赛，就你们不是应该是坚定的反对伊朗暴政吗？你们不是坚定表示这整个足球赛都是哈梅内伊阴谋吗？怎么你们第二天还去看呢？但是他们就是去了他们就是去看了这虽然这是阴谋，但是和我看足球赛有什么关系然后好然后接着去看，就发生了什么爆笑呢打输了英国队，然后接着就开始笑话这伊朗不行打输开始庆祝，然后后来呢是打赢了日本队。当天晚上就是嘉宾和其他的这球迷上街，大家庆祝打赢了日本队，然后接着就是又开始骂反贼，又开始骂你们怎么敢庆祝？你看早就说过这是政府的阴谋，你们绝对不能庆祝你们应该回头来看看伊朗大街上，来看看我们死难的孩子们。接着是打美国队，伊朗踢美国踢输了之后，当晚反对派跑上街庆祝，而且是一边打美国国旗，一边打玛莎阿米尼的国旗就非常的抽象，你知道吧？就是你们难道不是应该尽量试图表明我们不是美国支持，我们是关注伊朗国内事，我们是忍无可忍。你这个同时打美国和玛莎阿米尼的，同时打美国国旗和玛莎阿米尼照片实在太抽象了，但是就已经是属于演都不演，藏都不藏了。没错，我们就是支持美国人，没错，我们就是支持犹太复国主义，就彻底不藏的这种，就只能说比较厉害，然后当时嘉宾本人，当时他已经在德黑兰了，他住的那个公寓，就整个公寓都是反贼，然后到了那个晚上， 大家都聚在窗户边上、阳台边上，开始高喊各种反政府口号，就这个是更加绷不住的啊！我刚刚也说了，就是这是我整天看伊朗反贼游行最绷不住的在于什么呢？就伊朗反贼连口号都是抄的政府那一套，包括嘉宾表示，就是他们原样试图复刻1979年革命的口号啊、组织形式啊、组织方向啊，什么就类似宵禁的时候，实际上没宵禁，就是你知道吧？没宵禁。当时在窗户边上喊口号，是因为当时在巴列维时期搞了宵禁，然后现在政府没搞宵禁，但是他们还是依旧刻舟求剑，跑到窗户边上去喊口号，还是这一招。包括你看他们口号就什么呢？他们那一套什么啊，独裁者去死，哈梅内伊去死，什么等等，那一套口号都是抄的，就是革命支持者那一套，那个美国去死，以色列去死，他们连口号都是抄的那一套。我就非常想吐槽，就是你们嘴上说是要当反贼，但是你们除了口号里面改几个字以外，你们所有的组织模式，你们整个这个革命样本，全是抄的你们最看不起的伊斯兰革命、伊斯兰政府那一套。我就只能说你们是真的比较厉害，就这真的是你这霍梅尼要泉下有知，要找你们收版权费的。就只能说是比较厉害，我只能说是比较厉害。对你这自己发明梗都不会，就只能偷梗了啊。Yeah, let's continue. Hi, can you hear me? 稍等。
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Yeah.
Yeah. So there is other stuff that I think it's interesting for the audiences to hear. One is that the one that is considered the most hardcore extremist group in Iran. Some of them are being called Basiji and other groups in the universities mainly. They were
sorry. Some of them are called Basiji. Sorry.
So Basij is part of no. Basij is part of IRGC.
Yeah.
Which was founded after the revolution, but also Basij has there is an organization in universities. Whoever wants, they can join them.
Yeah.
So Basiji groups during the Women Life Freedom, they were actually proactively asking other angry students to join them and to have a conversation. Like I remember in Sharif University, which I mentioned before, it's the highest ranking university in Tehran.
Sorry, can you type the name?
They were Sharif.
Okay.
Yeah. So they were attacking the office in the university. They were breaking all windows and everything. In response, Basij actually didn't do anything aggressive towards them. They were using megaphone, asking them to join them and to sit with them and to have a conversation. And they were raising that this is the problem that we can fix. Let's not break everything. We are all in one country. We can listen to each other. And all of these angry groups, they were like, no, enough is enough. You guys are losing it. And that's why you are inviting us for a conversation. Too late. Sorry. We are going to continue what we are doing, and no one can stop us. No more space for civilized behavior towards the Iranian government. We are free to do whatever we want. And I remember right after a couple of days of very intense and full of tension days of Sharif University, a day after, there was a news that I think the Basij office in the university was fully burned. And they said it
that was
be
not
the
in the university, right? I think that was a Basiji barrack.
No, it was in the university. Apart from all the Basiji offices all around Iran, that was very unique because it was in the middle of the university.
Oh, that one. We are talking about the same burned barracks, right? I remember there was a lot of casualties. That was the only incident I remember. That was actually a Basiji barrack in the university. Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah. There wasn't a casualty in terms of injury or this because it was during the night.
Okay.
University was closed. But the day after, when people come to the university, they happen to see a very fearful picture of the message office. And yeah, that was actually very predictable, because no one wanted to talk to each other anymore. They were like, all right, we are in a power now, and we're going to retaliate whatever we have been tolerating during the time of Islamic Republic, and it's done now. So you guys going to go away, and we don't have to listen to you. This is one thing that I wanted to mention.
Just to confirm, so for the arson of the barrack you talk about, is it in the city of Avaz or somewhere else?
No, Tehran.
Oh, Tehran. Okay,
I can send you the link if you want.
Yeah, sure.
And another example I wanted to talk about is that, well, the link is in Farsi. I'm not sure if it does help, but
yeah,
I will send it to you.
Okay, I will just use auto translation. Yeah, thanks.
No worries. And another thing that I wanted to talk about was that the big gap between the reality that after a while we were experiencing in Tehran and what we were seeing in the news in the night in Iran International or BBC Persian. Like there were so many times that they were asking, opposition was asking people to come to the street. And I think maybe for some exceptions, I couldn't attend, but for the majority of the occasions, I did my best to go to the streets and to see with my own eyes what is happening. And actually, things were very, very quiet. Like Enqilab Square, the Revolution Square in Tehran, is one of the main points for the opposition to turn out. And this is, again, funny, because you said there is no creativity. Again, there is no creativity even to organize a protest. Like, maybe you have to choose another location, not the location that the Iranian government is actually very familiar from, I don't know, from 70 years ago. They always gather here, and they know how to protect this location, this very important square.
It's the Azadi Square, right? With the Azadi Tower?
Not Azadi. Azadi is a bit far from the downtown. This is the Revolution Square, Enqilab Square. Yeah. So most of them I tried to attend, and actually what you could see was nothing. Like, there were some people walking around. There were lots of cops in the streets, and you couldn't see anything very, very like in terms of the news to cover. But when you go home, you actually see news full of fire, and you're like, how did that happen? I didn't see anything. How did that what are they, where are they covering? And eventually you realize that, okay, they are just attaching films together. Obviously cities by cities are different, but they are taking one city to another city, and they projecting it as Tehran kind of protest. But this is the reality. Like, that was actually the confusion I was experiencing. I was like, I'm 100% sure there is something happening, because everyone is so proud of the revolution, so-called revolution. But when you go to the street, like, for example, there were a couple of days that they were saying that they are having national strike. So all the shops need to be closed to show solidarity for Mahsa Amini. But you go to the downtown, everything is open. And like, I was joking with people. I was like, why didn't you shut down? They're like, come on, what are we talking about? We our feet on the planet. We're not listening to Iran International. We need to feed our family. So leave us alone. Like, maybe they thought I am from Women Life Freedom, maybe not, I don't know. Okay. Because I wasn't wearing hijab. But even this, not wearing hijab during this time, was actually very interesting experience for me, because the cops were also obviously seeing me as someone supportive of Women Life Freedom, but I wasn't. So that gave me some maybe danger, but also opportunity to be in situation that I saw with my own eyes. Someone, like, it was a maybe gathering of maybe 10 people when they were passing, and they were starting to have some slogan, and the cops attacked them. And by accident, there was a bike rider who wasn't among those people, but he was hit. And I went to the cops and I was like, "Are you blind?
Hit with what?
You just hit some."
Hit with what?
I think it was a paintball.
Oh,
They
okay,
were
I see.
using
Yeah.
paintball.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like he was alive. He wasn't like bleeding or anything, but he was hit. So I went to the cops and I was like, "This is not acceptable. Did you see who did you hit? He wasn't even involved." And he said, "We know it was by accident, and we cannot even go to secure him because once we do that, other people think that he's one of us, and they will find him later a couple of kilometers away, and they will attack him, or they might kill him, because the killing was kind of unfortunately becoming I shouldn't say normal, but predictable in Tehran.
Yeah.
Like everyone was so scared to walk in the streets, and it was very interesting because since the Syria war, the opposition always was using this slogan against the Iranian government, that they say we have security because we fought with ISIS outside of the borders. But look at them, security anymore. So the security of civilians in Tehran was actually the main target for them, to show that the government is not capable of keeping the only thing they are making propaganda around.
Okay, yeah, let's see how that works. Yeah. So I will translate this part first.
Sure.
好，在当时呢，整个期间，这里有几点令人印象非常深刻。第一点就是网上和现实当中几乎是平行世界。你如果看 BBC 波斯，还有包括伊朗国际这些频道，你感觉好像整个伊朗全部是一片火海，到处都在烧，到处都有破坏，到处都在发生冲突。但是你走在德黑兰，你上街一看，你感觉根本就没有什么事儿。这完全一切正常，一切如常，什么也没有发生啊！而且非常逗的一点是什么呢？就是反对派的创造力缺失到了什么程度？他们的集会，他们的组织，全部在当年1979年庆祝革命胜利的革命广场发生的。然后这里的问题是，他们每一次组织大型群体活动，全部都在这里，以至于政府相关的安全部门对于怎么样在这里做警戒，怎么样做安保，怎么样包括进行人群控制什么，都已经是轻车熟路了。然后就你们来，我们还怕你们换地方呢，你们来吧所以就这个就非常非常的逗。然后在互联网上发现什么跟真实情况几乎是完全没有任何关联。接下来就是一个比较有意思了，因为嘉宾本人不戴头巾，所以呢，虽然这种情况有点风险，你可能会被误认为是抗议示威者，或者直接被误认为暴徒，但另外一个方面也使得嘉宾有很多机会近距离观察各种情况，包括警察的反应，包括这些游行示威者的反应是怎么回事儿就出现了一些比较有意思的，包括出去看。按照这些反贼媒体的说法，德黑兰这边都已经关门了，都已经全部歇业，都已经没法上街了，这都已经没法运作了，整个城市已经瘫痪了。然后看到有人在上班，然后嘉宾就过去问，那个不是听说你们都关门歇业了吗？不是听说都不干活了吗？因为安全风险都不出去了。然后别人可能是看他不戴围巾，以为他是反政府方，就说哎呀，你不要信那些互联网上的东西，互联网上说的不算数的，我这还要养家糊口，我这还要上班呢，怎么不上班？因为当时还有说法就是德黑兰的民众们与抗议示威者同仇敌忾，以罢工来作为对伊朗政府的抵抗等等。然后就哎呀，该上班，你不要听那些互联网上说的屁话，我们要上班的，我们要养家糊口的。然后另外一个故事，嘉宾以前跟我说，就是当时他在街上就看到有巴斯基民兵，就刻板印象的巴斯基民兵，大概17、18岁的样子，然后拿那个巴斯基民兵那个橡胶棒子在那边站在路障那边。然后呢，他当时就很好奇，因为那个时候已经有很多那个巴斯基民兵的牺牲了。 就过去问那个巴斯基民兵，就他刚一靠近，对方就表情特别扭曲，估计是因为他没有戴头巾，所以怀疑他是抗议示威者啊，就过去问他，赶快上去靠近说啊，你放心，不用怕，我不是反政府的一方，我是支持你们的。好，对方稍微放松一点，然后他就问，就是你这才多大呀？对面就是你这是不是看不起我？就表示你管我多大呢？就看着才17、18岁的样子。啊，接着嘉宾就问，就是你这新闻就巴斯基民兵都已经死了这么多人了，你不害怕吗？然后对方就非常轻蔑，咂着嘴把他给赶走了，就有这么样一个事儿，就挺有意思、挺乐的一个事儿。然后当时还有一个乐的事情是什么呢？这是刚刚说的，就是因为巴斯基这个本身是大量招收志愿者，而且绝大多数是兼职的，专职的人很少，它更加类似于预备役啊、民兵这种性质。然后呢，巴斯基在每个大学里面也都有组织招收志愿者啊，进行一些基本的国防教育啊，进行一些宣传呐，鼓励他们可能以后参军呐、参加革命卫队啊等等，有这样的就是学校的巴斯基组织。然后当时在伊朗最顶尖的学校德黑兰的这个谢里夫理工大学的时候，当时的情况是啊，一堆反对他在那边表示一定要推翻政府。然后呢，校园内的巴斯基组织没有动用武力，他们就拿着个扬声器开始大喊：好啦，大家不要冲动，我们都是伊朗人，伊朗人不打伊朗人，我们来坐下，我们来能不能好好聊一聊，讨论一下啊？我们能不能把我们这个矛盾给舒缓一下，缓解一下？然后抗议示威者对此的回应是啊，连巴斯基都要求坐下来谈话，那一定说明伊朗政府脆弱不堪，要完蛋了。他们没有办法，所以才和我们要谈，才要和我们谈话啊！这是经典的，敌人反对我，说明我做对了；敌人支持我，说明我做的太对了，他们不得不支持我们。啊，然后就继续闹，继续搞，然后包括当时把应该说是第二天吧，把一所大学，我看是哪所大学啊？这个新闻在国内应该是没有报的，国内报的那个焚烧巴斯基的基地是阿瓦兹的一个军事基地，然后当时是啊，对，就是谢里夫，然后第二天过去，发现谢里夫大学的那个大学里面的巴斯基办公室被人纵火给烧了。就没死人，因为当时正好是晚上，没人在场。但第二天早上过去一看，直接发现办公室都被烧了啊！就只能说就是伊朗反贼这个真的是就是比较厉害，就是他们能够让所有的就是原本对政府、原本亲政府的一方变得发现实在没法谈了，那只能更加亲政府了。就嘉宾自己表示，当初他那边阻止某些人喊一些比较出格的口号。就都已经不光是反政府口号了，更加出格的口号。反对这些口号的时候啊，别人直接开始，反对派就开始骂啊，你这是不是伊朗间谍？你这是政府间谍吧？啊，你这是拿了政府的钱吧？不然你怎么会阻止我们？然后嘉宾最后没办法啊，没错，你说的对啊，对，我就是政府间谍，啊，就变成这种情况，你就知道，就是很多时候真的没有办法，就这群反对派搞的是啊，就是反政府不绝对，就是绝对不反政府啊，这个就很逗。然后就是，所以这个事件发展到那个阶段，就已经是属于完全的这个社会的撕裂、双方的对抗等等，就已经发展到一个无可复加的程度了。然后包括就是整天看你说这个视频，海外媒体整天好像伊朗全部打成一锅粥，但你上街完全看不到几个示威者。然后呢，还有一次他本人个人经历就是啊，大概有10个示威者这边举标语，然后对面是警察朝他们打了彩弹枪，然后当时正好有一个路过的骑摩托车的人路过，被彩弹枪打中，然后摔倒了。然后嘉宾很生气，就跑去蹦到警察面前问警察，就是你们打枪有没有看清楚状况？那个人不是抗议示威者，你们朝他打什么枪？然后警察表示，是我们看到了，我们知道他不是示威者，我们搞错了，我们把他打倒了，但是我们不能上去帮他。为什么不能上去帮他？如果我们上去帮他，这群示威者就会默认啊，他是政府间谍，他是警察卧底，他是警察协助者，然后这群人就会联系，在几公里外把他截下来，把他揍一顿，甚至有可能把他打死啊！这事儿是真发生过的，这种事情是真的发生过的 啊，所以就这个就是属于你就知道这个他这个有些时候能够闹到有多疯啊。Yeah, okay, so this part's finished. It's apparently that a lot of audience are quite shocked.
Shocked about which part?
Shocked about the part when you talk about the biker. Yeah.
Actually shocked as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was a very shocking moment for all of us. Everyone was waiting for the anniversary of the Women Like Freedom. What's going to happen? Because when the opposition was kind of assured by the Western forces that it's not going to be any kind of war, then they put all the efforts into decreasing the national currency, and they were very successful.
Yeah.
So the only thing people were feared for the anniversary was that what's going to happen? Is that going to be another drop of the currency? People are going to economically being more even impacted. We already passed the sanctions, and we already passed the time of women like freedom, but there is nothing certain about the economy in Iran. Never.
Yeah.
Like this is the weakening point of the Iranian government that hasn't been very successful in maintaining the situation. Not even trying to. Well, the economy is getting bigger and bigger, but in terms of some points that
Financial
it needs
stability,
to be
monetary stability, that kind of stuff.
financial stability,
Yeah.
exactly. And the same thing happened now. Like after the three soldiers have been killed, the national currency was dropping swiftly, and everyone was saying because the Americans is going to hit the resistance, and that's why everything is going to be even more unstabilized. So we have to buy more dollars, and that's about the government that doesn't stop this very ill system of buying and selling the American dollars.
Yeah.
But yeah, I want to finish the woman life freedom by saying that it wasn't about women, it wasn't about life, and it was not about freedom. It was exactly about the opposite. It was about death. It was about destruction. It was about censorship. It was about oppression of the supporters of this movement against others. And there was nothing about democracy. There was nothing progressive about this time.
Yeah, I agree. Yep, that's a very good conclusion. 所以基本上呢，在那次事件之后，整体来说就是当伊朗国内反贼开始意识到美西方不会进行军事干涉，不会对他们进行协助之后，他们就转变方向，不再以这种大规模街头示威为主，而现在在之后，他们的行为更多转换到投机倒把，特别是让伊朗货币贬值，大量买美元等等这些行为。然后这些行为确实被证明是非常成功的。总体来说，伊朗政府在这么多年以来，在稳定货币这方面一直没能够取得足够的成效。然后包括到了今年，特别是前段时间，在有3个美国士兵被打死之后，然后接着又是一波明显是存在就是国内有组织所进行的投机倒把、做空、倒买倒卖等等这些行为，而这些行为呢，对于伊朗的整体经济秩序的影响非常大。所以这么多年以来，就总量来说，经济水平包括工业水平等等各方面来说，伊朗确实有所进步，但是在金融稳定和货币稳定这些方面一直都存在大量的问题，就是因为没有办法有效解决各种投机倒把和倒买倒卖的这一系列问题。这个其实就是有一个问题在于什么呢？就是伊朗本身为了绕制裁，存在大量的走私网络啊、走私渠道啊，各种的绕开官方监视、绕开美国监视这些网络。而过去为了绕制裁，一般来说官方对这些渠道都是睁只眼闭只眼的。但是你这些渠道的危害就在于你平时躲制裁方面，你就很容易出现这种投机倒把、倒买倒卖的情况，然后出现的话，你货币就币值崩盘，你出现一大堆的问题，就出现各种不稳定、各种乱七八糟的问题，然后就导致对一般人来说，这个对生活的影响就非常非常非常大。 所以总体来说啊，这个方面是一个问题，也是一个未来亟待解决的问题。虽然说句老实话，中东各国都存在类似的这方面的问题，这本身是有一个比较复杂的因素，普遍跟中东多数国家都存在大规模的走私网络有很大的关系，很难抓，很难管。但总体来说啊，2022年总结的话，2022年这个玛莎阿米尼事件，虽然这个运动口号叫女性生命自由，但是实际上整个活动和它的口号是完全的背道而驰，包括鼓励各种破坏无法无天，限制任何的与他们想要推行的言论不相符的言论、观点、审查、限制等等等等，是一个实际上就是反对方这些所谓的自由派，恰恰是采取最为极端、最为高压，在很多时候远比伊朗政府高压的多的措施来试图实现他们的目标。基本上就是这个样子。而在这个过程当中，他们虽然嘴上说的是啊要改善伊朗情况，但他们真正做的事情是完全不做人的乱搞的情况。Yeah, so we finished this point. So it's already 1:30 a.m. here. So it's what 9 p.m. in Tehran?
Yeah.
Yeah, so okay, so let's finish the last part and wrap this up. So basically, so you've been in China for 1 year. What's your perception of China? It's a very interesting. Let's hear it from an Iranian perspective. 那么我们最后一个问题来听听，就是从伊朗人视角，在中国住了1年之后，他对于中国是什么看法、什么观点？
Well, not a 1 year. I just came to China in November.
Oh, so okay, so
and I wasn't lucky enough to spend so much time, but it will be a couple of years for me to stay in China. Where to start? I love this country. It's a very, very great experience for me to be in China. To be honest, when I decided to study in China, the main objective for me was that to learn about the history and the current situation in this country, but also understand more about the China's stance about resistance axis and Iran, Palestine, China's relationship with Israel and all this stuff. But now that it's the second year of the master that I'm doing, I am actually thinking that I need to be way more humble, and it's a very big goal for me to actually achieve in, I don't know, in a couple of years even. Suju, I went to Suju. That was the first city that I visited, and also Beijing. It's very interesting for me. Everything is very new. Like, it's not only about the Iranian perspective, but also I lived in Melbourne for a couple of years, and Melbourne was ranked for the first city for a couple of years in the world. And nothing even I can compare Melbourne to Suzhou, like not even other bigger cities. The level of organization this city has, and the level of, I should say, calmness that this city actually offers to you. The modernity that Suzhou has is so inspiring for me. I was not expecting it, actually. Everything. I have to say, very simple thing that maybe it sounds to you guys very normal, but for me, the even the postage, the delivery, the night markets next to our dormitory, the way that the university works, the streets, the bus, the public transport. Even when I went to the railway station in Suzhou to go to Beijing, it was so astonishing for me. I thought I'm in an airport.
Like, you went there?
I
was like, on train, right?
It was a train station, and it was just I think it was a high-speed train.
Yeah.
But to find my gate, to find where I should wait for the train, I was like, this doesn't look like a train station. Not in Iran, not in Australia. This is just next level. This is the future. And I'm not exaggerating it. Yeah. Actually, the very interesting thing for me is that the combination of a very modern lifestyle and at the same time a very basic things that is provided for ordinary people. Like, I was so amazed by seeing elderlies dancing in the street with the same music. That was so beautiful for me. And it wasn't only for me. Everyone else I was asking, everyone was like, yes, this is so beautiful to see elderlies actually to be so healthy and to be so happy and to exercise. That's not the case in Iran. That's not the case in Australia.
Okay, there's where the different perspective comes to play. Okay, for a lot of Chinese, particularly the young Chinese, it was often something that is treated with annoyance.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's too loud, and a lot of time it does. Like when they are staying up and dancing late, yeah, it does get loud.
We were not annoyed. Maybe
Yeah.
you guys are annoyed, but also the other thing is that the very affordable restaurants in Suzhou, like you can pay, I don't know, 6-7 yuan, and you can have a bowl of rice with something else at the top. That's not 100% the case in Australia for sure. Forget about it. But also in Iran, like even though Iran is cheaper than China, but going to a restaurant and eat healthy food with this amount of money is not actually very convenient. I shouldn't say possible, but it's not everywhere. But in Suzhou, everywhere I go, there are big restaurants and food courts that actually providing very cheap food, and they are actually healthy. Yeah, there are so many things. I can talk about how I feel about in the dormitory, even about the study room. Like first time I went to the study room, I saw everyone is leaving their computers and their stuff in the study room, and they're going, and I'm like, someone is going to steal your stuff. Hey. And then I realized, no one is going to do anything like this. Like you have to remove this kind of expectation because you are from somewhere else. And I actually started to do the same thing. I started to just leave my laptop and just go home and sleep and come back the day after, and everything is just untouched. Like no one has moved anything. Yeah, I
Okay,
just feel so
actually, here's
safe.
something funny. Here's something funny because okay, the first time I went overseas, I was the one kind of surprised that you should not leave your stuff around, like it might get stolen. And 10 years later, a decade later, I realized that when I get back to China, now this is a place where I feel it's safe to just leave my things around. And when I go abroad, I actually started caring about it might get stolen. It's quite the reverse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's reverse, but I relate to this
Yeah.
because that's kind of the feeling I had. It's very, very important. Like one of my friends, they lost their phone,
Yeah.
and the day after, they went to the police office and they said, "Okay, I lost my phone." And she said, less than 1 hour, I had my phone back.
Yeah.
So that's not the case in Iran for sure, and in Australia. Like, just forget about your phone.
Yeah, I agree.
You can't go anywhere to ask for your phone.
Okay, I'll translate this part first. 好了，那么从嘉宾本人的角度来说，其实嘉宾是我之前搞错了，来中国没有那么久，他是去年11月来的，然后他是在苏州人大那边上学。那么他来了之后呢，就是感觉是属于大受震撼。本身来是为了更好的了解中国，包括研究就是关于中国和抵抗之湖之间的关系这方面的问题。然后来了之后呢，就意识到一个是这个研究本身在未来可能是要做几年，应该是要在人大读博。然后呢，同时在过来之后是希望能够说有更多的时间进行接触，包括在苏州受到了巨大的震撼。这个震撼包括但不限于整个城市从各个角度来说都是高度现代化的，不光是和伊朗相比，注意，不光是和伊朗相比，你包括和澳大利亚和墨尔本相比，虽然和墨尔本或者更大像悉尼这些地方相比，实际上都是属于国内已经是高度现代化了。这一点是我可以作证的，就是你说相比我去过的多数国外城市，国内真的算是高度现代化。然后特别是像包括公共交通，然后呢快递、邮政等等这些系统，你能够明显的感觉到效率完全不在一个层级，效率明显不在一个档次。所以说这方面，然后包括对高铁站是感到大为震撼，就是你说特别是你看惯了还是习惯国外那个火车站，你习惯了，你特别像我们国内可能90年代2000年代初你坐那种火车你坐多了，就国外还是类似于那种感觉。然后去高铁站第一次是误以为这里是飞机场不是高铁站 这个是非常常见的一个外国人来了之后感受到的高铁震撼。第一点就是你这个整个站就明显不一样然后呢，接着是包括其他很多，特别是比如说在寝室当中所感受到治安，你包括像自习室，大家都直接把东西就放在自习室，把电脑啊什么东西都能够直接放在自习室回去。第一次过来都感到惊讶，你们不怕被偷吗？然后后来发现这待了一段时间自己也习惯了，就是东西放在自习室，反正没人会偷的，没有问题的这些方面就是很明显的，包括治安现代化程度安全感等等这些方面就非常明显的不是同一个级别的是洛阳都比土澳强。洛阳是不是4线我们先不管但是确实就是土澳，你在我看来其实确实属于挺破的，确实是挺破的。是的，所以说这整体来说就是已经是属于非常繁荣安定了。还有就是物价和饮食，就是它本身在苏州物价我不清楚但是按照原话是，你在一些餐馆等等，你可以很便宜，可能吃7、8块钱就能吃个那种盖浇饭、盖码饭。然后同时呢，材料各方面菜做的本身都是比较健康的。这一点我同意。就是你如果看过伊朗饮食和中东饮食的话，那也是各种超高热量食品。你特别是你看见海湾王爷吃饭，那都是哎呦喂，各种甜点，然后大量的给你摁造什么薯条洋葱圈等等超高热量食物给你大量摁造。所以说相比之下，那真是说到了中国看什么，就是你对比欧洲和你对比那个中东和土澳饮食，那确实是来了中国看什么都感觉是健康饮食，这确实没有什么问题然后接着就是感觉就是整体来说价格非常廉价便宜，就是肯定比澳洲要便宜，这点没得说。相比伊朗，虽然整体物价还是要比伊朗高一点，但是在很多时候，特别在吃饭这方面，价格包括在餐馆里面价格是属于非常廉价亲民，可以承担的。伊斯兰世界美食还得靠土耳其，别，我其实觉得土耳其菜不好吃，冒着得罪大家的风险，我说一句，我是觉得土耳其菜不太好吃的kebab 你现在整个中东都有，你不需要在土耳其，你在整个中东都有 kebab 好的。Yeah, okay. So, okay. Okay, that's fun. So, we actually talk a little bit like a lot of audience care a lot about food. Like some people are saying that they feel the best food in Middle East is Turkey. Is in Turkey. Now I beg to differ.
Oh.
Yeah, okay. My personal favorite is actually Lebanese. But yeah, like do you care to introduce a little bit about Iranian food? Like what do you eat there?
And I will invite all of the audiences to come to Iran and try the Iranian food. And I'm 100% sure that changes their opinion about food in Middle East.
Yeah, I
Before
agree.
going to
Like
food,
Iranian
I
food
just
is
want to...
quite different from all the other like Middle Eastern food that I've
Yes,
seen.
thank you. Thank you for standing on the right side of the history.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say one more thing about China, and then we're going to food. There were also some annoying things about my experience. One is that the Iranians cannot actually open a bank account in China very easily. They need to go. I think there is only one specific bank in Shanghai that people go there to open their account. For me, it was a different case because I had also Australian passport. But for even me, the China bank refused to open the account for me, and they said it's because of the sanctions. And I was like, guys, we are together in this game. let's do this. But it didn't happen, so it was a bit disappointing for me. Another thing is that it's really hard for me to actually find people supporting the like more kind of a new world order around the community. Like even in terms of the foreigners, international students, some teachers, even it's so hard. Like normally, what I see is that people are trying to convince others that China is as free as other countries or as kind of liberal as other countries. Actually, I don't think that's the game we have to play.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, absolutely agree.
yeah, it's a bit challenging for me. Like I try to avoid this kind of conversation, but it's kind of inevitable in the
Yeah, they're
university.
kind of trying to convince other people that China is just like US and Europe. That's what they're trying to do, what they're trying to
Yeah,
convince other people to believe. Yeah.
yeah, that's not what we want. And like for example, even people are in China, they are international students. They being a bit smart, like they criticize Russia and Soviet Union a lot in any kind of occasion. They don't lose any opportunity to actually do so. But
International
when it
students
comes to
or
China, yes, yes.
okay.
But when it comes to China, they decide to be silent, obviously. But that's the funny thing, right? Because when you are so critical about Soviet Union, communism, the history, Russia, and all this stuff, and then when it comes to China, you are in China, you are supporting China, and that's not how can I say it? That's not aligned with whatever
Yeah.
you are trying to articulate here. But also that's common in among international students in China, because when I was coming to China, I thought everyone is like me. Everyone is so staunch. Everyone is so interested about China, and they actually admire the history of China, and they see it as like another kind of anti-imperialist massive force. But it's not the case. And I haven't seen a lot of effort to actually try to educate these people. So that's also annoying for me.
No, in
A bit
terms
of
of that kind of
criticism.
education, in my opinion, generally speaking, they try to stay off from anything related to political matters. So yeah, yeah,
Mm.
that is the case there. That is the case. Yeah, yeah. These are actually very good observation, I would say, for someone who's just been here for less than 5 months. These are very acute observation. I generally agree with your assessment.
Mm.
Okay, so I will translate this part first.
Sure.
这个部分是比较有意思的，就是嘉宾讨论自己来了中国之后感到比较不满的一些地方，我会说这些观察都非常的到位，而且就是说考虑到嘉宾只在这边待了不到半年，可以说是属于非常敏锐的观察。就包括第一个，这个其实懂的人都懂，就是国内对于伊朗来的外国人是非常不友好的，由于制裁问题，所以基本上就是你想要银行开户，你想要包括你像办手机号什么等等这些都非常非常的困难。包括嘉宾是拿自己的澳大利亚护照拿出来就直接用相当于澳洲国籍那边来办也不行，就是听说你是伊朗人不办，就是它不是一种说是因为有规定所以我不办，更多是一种我一听说我一定不要撞麻烦，我不办，我不弄，所以它更多是这样的一个情况。然后接着可能还有一个问题，就是嘉宾感到比较有意见的，特别是在学校里，就是包括和当地的，就是不管是国内的学生、老师，还是说就是国外的，有几点。第一点就是发现国内老师在教学的时候，在特别是面对外来国际生教学的时候，往往包括媒体也存在，往往采取的论点是试图说服别人就是中国和西方一样自由，你不要相信外面的误传，中国是像西方、像美国、欧洲一样，都是推崇自由的国家。然后呢，对于这个新的，你可以说是在2022年之后提的更多的多极化世界秩序，至少在很多的教育体系和媒体舆论宣传口径当中是绝口不提的，还是更多是一种就是我们要破除西方的虚假宣传，重点是也是我之前说的，要证明我国是一个跟欧美一样自由的国家，更多是特别在包括对外国际生教学的时候，也更多是采用这样一个模式，而不是强调和欧美的对抗以及我国道路的正确性。这种东西你如果要用国外的说法，这个属于 apologies 这个属于为自身路线道歉，并且试图说服对方我们其实是好人，不是你想的那个样子。但是这个东西就很容易会带来大量的问题，我们就不今天就不多延伸了。 好的，接下来是这是嘉宾对于很多同届的国际生的抱怨。原本他来之前呢，他觉得应该所有来中国留学的国际学生都是像他一样，是属于对这个西方整个这套现行国际秩序和西方帝国主义感到不满的人大家都是属于同道中人，都是同志。但是过来之后呢，就发现很多人是任何与苏联、与俄罗斯相关的，注意这是国际生这是国际生。任何涉及到与苏联和俄罗斯相关的东西，全部都是大家批评，包括最根本的共产主义、社会主义路线等等，也是批评然后接着谈到中国了，就只有好话，就不批评。但是这里的问题在于，如果你包括苏联和俄罗斯的根本路线，你连根本社会主义和共产主义路线都要批评的话，那么你谈到中国，你这个谈到中国只有好话，你这个逻辑是不是有点圆不上？你这个逻辑是不是有点对不起来就是这几个问题，我基本上都同意，确实存在，我基本都同意。这些问题是都存在的，好的，挺好的。那么这样一来的话，我们今天基本上整体内容也已经告一段落了，整个内容也都已经非常全面了，也非常感谢大家，也非常感谢今天嘉宾给大家分享这么多内容。刚刚也有很多观众提问，非常非常的感谢。我来看一下好，刚刚水之子的 SE 问在嘉宾有没有在中国遇到困惑事情，类似于 cultural shock， 我们刚才大概已经是说了这个。好，还有几个，感谢任宇桥的 SE。这是 SE。OK，好，感谢任宇桥的 SE。Okay, so let's read some comments like what people are asking about. So people are asking that there will be a new high-speed railway built between Tehran and Mashhad. Do you know about that?
Yes. The president just announced the project, and hopefully it's going to happen. Everyone is waiting for it.
Okay.
Too late already.
Yeah. 好，嘉宾表示大家知道确实有这个事儿，而且呢，其实这属于万众瞩目，都非常期待，认为早就该建高速铁路了这个属于是大家都期望这个项目能够进行的，能够顺利推进。刚刚弦音的 SE 算不算王梦圆来大陆见到了6岁以上全员亲美类似的情况？对，很类似，是的，是这个样子。Yeah, so we've kind of come to the end of today's stream. Yeah, took 6 hours. That's quite long. Yeah, you probably need to take a break soon. So it's a great pleasure to have you here today to talk about these topics, to provide an Iranian perspective. There are a lot of details. It's a great pleasure.
No worries. That was an honor for me to be here, and thanks for having me.
Yeah, sure. So anything you want to say to the Chinese audience to wrap up this stream?
Sure. I just because there was some questions about food, I just wanted to say that there are a lot of good food here in Iran waiting for you guys. I invite you all in Iran. But also, unfortunately, there is a massive propaganda around actually the food in China. And people are asking me weird questions. What am I eating there? If it's okay to eat in China? And I'm very, very happy that I'm in China and I can use my very own experience to actually explain to them the food is amazing and the culture, the history, everything is just out of your imagination. So I just want to use the opportunity to live in China, something that be against the widespread racism against especially food system in China. And I'm hopefully being successful in that. Thank you.
Yeah, this is actually very interesting. Yeah. 嘉宾最后想要总结，首先是非常欢迎邀请大家前去伊朗品尝伊朗的美食，但是还有一点就是可能很多人不知道，就是在伊朗国内针对中国的各种说是反向宣传诋毁打击包括种族主义顺便说一句大部分都是伊朗自由派推的，主要针对就是说中国食品卫生、食品安全，还有吃些奇奇怪怪的东西，然后包括有很多朋友非常关切的问候嘉宾说，你在那边能吃东西吗？那边东西健康吗？能吃吗？等等。然后嘉宾每一次要反复强调这边的食物非常好，然后包括在这边能够看到的历史文化都是非常令人震惊，完全超过想象，并且他也希望在未来几年他能够通过自己的努力改变说伊朗国内对于中国很多这方面，特别是非常想改变对于中国饮食美食方面的刻板印象。 那么非常感谢嘉宾今天花时间来到我们的直播间，然后非常谢谢，感谢。那么嘉宾也感谢各位观众，今天我们大家一起聊啊，陪到这么晚，谢谢。好的，那么这样一来的话，好，我先稍微送别嘉宾，然后回来我们可以再稍微聊两句。Okay, so now we have come to the end of our stream. If you don't mind, okay, so how about this? I will wrap up the stream here in a bit. After that, I will talk to you in private.
Yep.
Okay, great. So, you can hang up the call now. 好的，那么今天一来的话，大概就是这样了。今天这一场也是有很多就是非常有价值。